All right. Good evening, listeners. Thank you for tuning in. This is the DARKHARTE podcast. Devin Guerrero here, Pacifica Divine on Instagram. I'm here with my friends and guests. I'm very happy to share this podcast with them. You guys would like to introduce yourselves briefly?
Ivan Hernandez. You can find me on Instagram on Mistaken.
Robin, you want to? Hi, my name is Robin, and this is my first time doing a podcast. So, woo, exciting!
And my name is Caitlin, or Kat McGuire. It's not unfamiliar for me to do a podcast. I'm on Strength in Gaming, which is a video game podcast, and you can find me at Strength in Cat on Instagram.
There we go. That was a hot sell, guys. Like the world's going to be into you all right now. All right. Let's kind of jump in. I've been discussing this whole podcast and like what it's about with everyone at work. And I think with the first one, it was really just introductory. The second one was kind of the first taste with Lou, which ended up being more of like kind of like a mind tease.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're just like, fucking each other's heads a little bit, which was nice. Yeah. Everyone needs that every once in a while. But I love to just kind of get down and get real with people. And that was the main intent of the podcast, is I wanted to really explore other people, real life. Because, I mean, honestly, most of the podcasts that most people indulge in are celebrity podcasts, special guests. I mean, I got into the whole podcasting world through Joe Rogan. Most of his guests are big intellectual celebrities themselves, and that whole kind of world that's, I think, well above where we kind of orbit. And so I wanted to get like a real workings person, podcast going and really explore you guys, explore human beings. Maybe there's not an indefinite intent in everything, but I think we're going to get there through each podcast session. And so I kind of want to just kind of pierce each of you with questions throughout the evening, but I kind of want to jump in and just kind of tackle what you're each about first, and we'll kind of just branch off from there.
All right, well,
I don't want to make it too lengthy. All right, beautiful. For anyone who's just jumping in, we all have worked at one point together at the Cheesecake Factory, specifically.
Choice.
There you go. Yeah, we're cakers. Pardon us. Is that what they call us?
I don't know. Cheesemakers, really?
The dredge of the earth.
Yeah. Okay, I will say, when I used to like bar hop around Huntington, you go to a few dives, for after work. Let's see, what would it be? I think it's called Cakers or Cheesecake or Cakers. That was it. That's what they called us. Because we'd all be in white back then, and we stood out. We stood out bad.
Everybody knew that you worked at the Cheesecake Factory because you were all in white. And the one question, what is the one question that everybody comes up to you? How do you keep that clean?
Dude,
everybody would come out there and be like, how do you maintain it? I was like, yeah, honestly, like, bleach is my best friend, and I hate it.
Yeah.
Poor lighting is my friend. That's honest. There you go.
100%. I was lucky, though. I came in, I think, right after they switched to white shirt, black pants.
See, that happened to me, but I found out that we were switching to white, to getting rid of the white pants after I had already bought all of my white pants.
Oh, shit.
So I had just a first day on the job. I'm decked out. We go do our alignment, and they're like, oh, by the way, starting a month from now, we're going to do black pants, black socks, black shoes, and I'd already just bought everything white.
Great.
So I was like, well,
that sucks, dude.
Sorry, I will be waiting till the last minute to change. So.
Yeah.
But you look great in it.
Yeah.
At this point, only 3 of us are still at Cheesecake, and specifically that's the Disney location, Mighty Anaheim, which we take so much pride in.
Oh, yeah.
Robin, what are you off to these days now you're out of our cheesecake world?
I am. I have moved on to bigger, not necessarily quite better things, but it's definitely something different. I am now working as a property manager for a big company in Irvine. So it's definitely different, definitely very interesting.
You gonna explore that world more, or?
I like the potential of where it can go.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ability to move up in a corporation without necessarily being a restaurant manager is definitely appealing. But I miss the atmosphere of the restaurant, the people that I work with, the respect that you get working with someone at such a fast pace in such a short amount of time.
Yeah,
is something that is so unique.
I want to ask, if I'm sure there's people in the world that you're now inhabiting who probably have not worked the service industry like perhaps we have.
Correct.
Is there a big disconnect for you in that regard?
There is. It's definitely a much slower pace. There's definitely some people that just can't keep up with the heightened pace,
Mm-hmm.
where they're not adjusted to being put on the spot right away. Customer service aspect is still very much the same.
Okay.
But definitely a lot of my coworkers tend to coast through their life a little bit more so than I would say some of the people we work with at Cheesecake Factory.
I think it's something to do with, like, we're kind of in the shit together, right? It's kind of like a common cause thing where, like, we may not always love or like everything going on, but because we share in it, it seems like it brings us closer.
I think it really does. I've worked in many different restaurants over the course of like just my restaurant career. I mean, I started when I was 15, and it's really interesting because I've only been in this and then briefly outside of the serving industry, and it's night and day. It really is. Like you were saying, you're in the shit.
Yeah.
You're with everybody. You grow a bond with them, and you have to trust them quickly. You know.
Yeah, you sink or swim every day, and you have your peers to help you swim and not sink.
Yeah.
And I think that does build a great connection, and we all kind of wallow in our misery together when it's really busy. And I mean, all of us are not doing well, but you know, it's gonna get done. My motto is just, it's gonna get done. Don't stress about it at this point.
You know what? I've actually, like, talking about mottos, I've actually got into the mindset of going into it with a motto, this too shall end.
Exactly.
Like that is my one motto, that when I go in there and I'm having just a crappy shitty day, it's like, this too shall end. And so I've started going into mantras and started going into like these. It's so funny because in the serving industry, there's a lot of spirituality in it. There really is. There's a lot of people that we work with that are like, they're very mantra oriented. They're very spiritual about what they do. They talk about people and how we react with one another. And it's really interesting because I feel like because we work so closely with people and we see all people of all sorts of natures, we are like at one form or another very spiritual. We sense that. We can see that. We sense auras. We sense how people, like, when the first thing that they do is you sit down, you have your guests, they sit down and you read them. You can tell right away. Are you pissed? Are you mad? Are you happy? Are you sad? Do you just want to be just left alone? Do you want to have a laugh? Do you want to have something? And you have to pick it up real quick. And I feel like we are very in tune spiritually that way.
Yeah. And it's getting to the point where it's so easy to pick up on these things. Like, you don't even have to try anymore. You know, I've been at the Cheesecake Factory the least amount of time as you guys have, I think, and it's coming up on almost 2 years in a few months. And I just know right away what I'm going to experience with the table. And for the most part, I have good nights because I know.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that you go up to the table and you just know. You are able to pick up on their aura. You're able to pick up on where they're at or how you're doing. And it's like you were saying, it just comes naturally now.
Yeah. I have another motto that I say once in a while.
Yeah.
And Cheesecake Factory definitely brought it on. It's not stereotyping if it's true.
Oh, I was like, I'm allowed to be racist because I'm a server. That's another thing. And I know it's not PC, but it's just, it is what it is. You see the same archetype all the time, the same flow, the same type of people, the same, and it's true what they say. Be a server at least one time in your life.
Oh yeah, everyone
should be a server one time in their life. You should, because it helps you connect to people better. It breaks and it's not just so that you can learn the shit part of it, because it is shitty at times. You know, you have people yelling at you, you have people screaming at you, you have people, I want this, I want that, I want this way, I need to see your manager, who are you, you're incompetent, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And so you see that shit part of it, but the good part about it is that you learn to connect with people quicker. Your ability to be able to be friendly quicker, the ability to be able to acknowledge a person quicker, to see their faults quicker, to be able to be okay with those faults quicker is serving.
something I picked up just in between your guys' statements, and I know Robin will agree with this, is that, and I know I talked about this a couple years ago with, you guys remember Vanessa Murray?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you must have been there for a little while with her.
I ran into her later on after she left.
Yeah, she for listeners and viewers, she was mainstay at Anaheim for some time. Really extraordinary individual. I think came out of Brea Cheesecake before Anaheim. Really great person. Really love her. Miss her. Love going out to her. But she and I discussed this. She and I read the French writer Michel Foucault or something, one of his books. I think Discipline and Punish. But something about those who endure the most, I'll use the words in different ways, but I mean stress, pain, those that endure the most, the agony of life, those are the most great-souled of human beings. So I think those who endure with the most struggle then become most capable to read other human beings, to endure the frailties and weaknesses or hate of other human beings. I think it really kind of, you're being thrown into the world in a way that very often we're not. And if you look at the rest of society and how there's a cross-section in terms of how you end up in terms of what you do, say if you're in the service industry, you're miles apart from people who are not, which is why I delved into your world briefly there.
Yeah.
And so I think when you look at the two, it's like, I think we're so capable as human beings because we've been through the service industry. I think we're much more capable and well-developed, or more developed, because some of us, I wouldn't say, are well-developed. I think we're in a developing world.
Yeah.
That's it. Because I would argue that...
Do you think, and so going back on that, do you think that because a person has gone through so much shit in their life, is it, I don't wish this upon anybody else, and that's the mentality that you're going to? Do you feel like that's the reason why people are going to be a little bit better acquainted, like a better souled, as you mentioned, because of that? It's like, I had all this shit onto me. I don't wish this upon even on my enemy, so I'm going to do something different to make it better. Do you feel like that's why?
I do. And this is a bigger point that I want to kind of flesh out maybe through the podcast. We can jump in right now or maybe bring it back around.
Yeah.
But I think that struggle, and I know it sounds maybe wrong to people who first hear it, but I think maybe not so much pain is necessary, but struggle is necessary to developing the human being and our highest potential. That I think peace and comfort is deadly to us. And I'd say that the peace and comfort of the abundant resources of America is what has made us frail and weak as a society, which is why we're seeing divisiveness now.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I wouldn't wish some ills upon others, things that I face that I know could be avoided, that aren't necessary maybe to develop a person.
Yeah.
I think those kind of things, like if you pick and choose it, right? Like there's so many reasons why people end up, as just one example, on the streets. Yeah. You guys know my photo gallery on Instagram,
Yes.
Urban Decay.
Yeah.
I'm really highlighting that. They end up on the streets for so many reasons. Some of those are avoidable, or we could develop a safety net to save so many of them. So there's certain things that, of course, we could absolutely, if we work together, benefit society.
Yeah.
But I do think that struggle, in some way, it can be hugely advantageous to the development of the individual human being. And so I wouldn't put anyone through agony of any sort, but I would advocate some form of struggle available to the human being, whether that's more sports, whether that's more intellectual pursuits, whether that's more artistic pursuits. I think that engaging in life rather than vegetating through too much media, perhaps, which is very dangerous in my opinion, is what we should be doing. You know, and maybe there is struggle in engaging with certain media.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's also something that's emerging. The ever evolving world of technology is going to throw us into VR very soon. I think.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's
definitely.
going to be not just headsets. It's going to be immersive. Right. Like your body won't even move. It's just going to be Matrix almost.
It's in its infantile stage right now.
Right. So I mean, that's.
Have you read Ernest Cline?
I haven't.
You haven't?
No.
You haven't done Player One yet?
No.
Oh, it's read Player One. Anybody who hasn't read Player One,
Ready Player One?
Ready Player One.
Yeah.
That's the movie,
Yeah.
right? That
That's
came
the
out?
movie. Read the book.
Based
Read
on
the
what-
book.
Oh, all right, that answered that.
I
That
started
answered
the
that.
book, but I haven't finished
The
it.
Oh,
movie,
it
the movie
was-
was really good.
I
The
get a little
movie
jungle
did a
juice,
very
my
good
pardon.
job of.
Do you have another one?
something-
Oh yeah, I got some.
I was
Pour me a
gonna
little
say,
sniff, okay?
We're getting refills, yeah. But no, the one thing I will say about Ready Player One is that I have seen a lot of movies that have started as books. Ready Player One, I feel like, was the first book-based movie that I've ever seen that actually changed the texture, like changed the content without changing the moral of the
I'll try a
book.
little bit with it.
And so
Okay.
it did a very
Okay.
good job of, because the
All right,
actual
that's good.
things that he does in the movie are not the same as the actual things that he does in the book. But the meaning and the result of them all come out exactly the same and keep that kind of significance behind it, which I thought was really fascinating and something you don't really find in a lot of movies that are based in that way.
I like the continuity of being able to relate significant elements of certain forms of media. So, like a really classic book, like the best parts. I think everyone here and a lot of viewers will know. I'd love that. Thank you. Lord of the Rings author J.R.R. Tolkien's. Well, sorry, his Lord of the Rings, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we probably all read the books. We all probably saw the movie.
Yes.
I have not read the book.
I haven't read all the books.
I have not read the book.
Okay. Maybe, I'm sorry. Maybe I jumped the ship.
No.
I jumped the ship there.
Here's the thing. It's like
I want to.
let's do a little compliment thing. I love the fact that you read so many books and that
Yes.
you're so into literature. I try to get into literature and I can't. Like, I am definitely, if I were to say one thing, I'm an advocate of people to people. Like, I listen to a person and I will listen to other people and I will get information that way. But just being solitary and getting my information from literature is super hard for me. Super difficult for me. I mean, I've read all sorts of books growing up and I've learned a lot, but now I need a hands-on approach more often than anything. And I feel like you exude in the literature aspect, and that's one thing that I really appreciate about you. So I just want to let you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, bro. No, I think because I got shortchanged on TV growing up,
Okay.
books were just a natural go-to, and it was also what my parents made
Oh
available.
man, I was a latchkey kid for
No,
TV was my babysitter.
I want to get Lou back in here with Edson, because between the three of us, we actually noticed something. We had a session in the car one time, and we realized Edson grew up almost primarily all TV. Okay, that was his babysitter. Okay, now you guys have worked with him. You know he'll stay glued to the TVs in the bar. He has a certain attention span. He's wired a certain way because of media.
Yeah.
Lou almost exclusively had books available to him. He didn't really have TV available. But and that's why I think like he's super book dense and heavy. And so that's why I think we then relate on a certain level.
Yeah.
And then there's a certain part where during my development, my parents, like my two brothers, were out of the house. My parents, got cable finally, and then I indulged a bunch of media. So I'm kind of a mix in between the two of them, where I see both their worlds, and it's weird how I relate to both. But then they have weird ways of relating to each other.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how media has so much of an impact on our development. And I would ask, like, what do you each think? Because I see where I land in the spectrum, and right now in my life, I'm starting to consume more media, and so I'll sometimes pull back from watching too much, and I'll start doing more walks, or I'll be on Instagram too much, and I'll take a break away.
Right.
But how do you guys feel on that subject?
Well, I think that our generation is the one that is closely related to both, like you said, both media and books and literature, because the internet started like around the time we were all born.
Wait, really? Do you feel like people are reading more books now than they were, like, let's say, like,
Oh, yeah.
5 years? Really?
I mean, I have a lot of friends who, they were born the same year as me, or like give or take a year.
Yeah.
And they totally prefer reading books rather than watching TV or movies or film or anything.
That's a topic that let's go back around. But that's a topic
Yeah.
that I want to learn, because I'm something that I've been mulling over this last year is the blindness of our circle, and we'll come back around to the to that. But that's a good point. So
Yeah, we're connected to both because we grew up with both. The internet was so new when we were developing that it wasn't always readily available, and we had like dial-up and all that shit. You know, you had to not make a phone call when you're on the internet. You had to do one or the other. So it wasn't always accessible. So we had books in the meantime, like when we couldn't go on the internet. So I find that a lot of people around my age love both. But, you know, some people are, of course, inclined to read books more. Some people are more inclined to, you know, binge a TV show. But I think all in all, people like in their 20-somethings, maybe early 30s, they like both, and they lean towards both. And like Devin, they can distinguish, like, okay, I'm watching too much TV. Like, I'm going to read a book now or go for a walk. And then after they've buried their faces in books for 2 weeks straight, they're like, okay, I need to go out and see the sun and hang out with my friends and socialize and binge a TV show with my best friend.
Been trolling too much.
So yeah, I think that we're connected to the majority of us are connected heavily to both.
So especially this generation.
This generation,
Okay.
yes.
It was
Definitely.
it was more trickled in to our lives. Like, we had a life where we experienced it, where it was very rare. And you got to grow up in a position where it was, now you can say, oh, I don't know the answer to this. Just Google it, and boom, you instantly know. But we remember when we were kids, look it up in the dictionary.
My dad always said encyclopedia.
Yeah, look it up in the encyclopedia.
We had an encyclopedia set.
My gosh.
And
Me too.
crazy.
Me too.
Every time I asked a question, I'm like,
I
Dad, what
did.
is this? Go look in the encyclopedia.
No,
I got
it
told
was-
that all the time. I remember that. Hell yeah.
Information for me was so hard to obtain growing up. Like, any sort of information, and I think that was one of the biggest drawbacks especially for school. Because you know how, like, when you're in English class or anything like that, they're like, oh, you can just cite it, or you have to find this or whatnot. Information for me was so hard to grasp. Just to grasp, because I didn't have it. I didn't have it. Anything that was given to me was like, okay, yeah, sure. I was like, encyclopedias, dictionaries, and stuff like that. Look it up or do something like that. So that was so, for me, that was not readily available information for me. So as I was growing up, to me, information right now is everything. Like, I will just gobble everything up.
Knowledge is
Yeah.
So then I have a question for you, because I know you had a rather unique childhood that I know I did, and I know probably most people did. Do you think that because you necessarily didn't have those kinds of books and literature available to you as a kid, that maybe you actually kind of did jump full into TV and media, and that's why you hold on to it so much now?
Yeah, because now it's like something so nice, and like, I never thought I would have this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Now that you have it,
now
it's
that
like, I can't let it go.
So going back to the whole media aspect of just having TV, we haven't had TV for 9 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like everything got switched out. I mean, obviously everybody right now is like, fuck cable. It's like, why am I going to pay $200 and something when I can just get Netflix?
Yeah.
Like, so when Netflix first started, that was one of the biggest things that I just like. We don't need cable. We'll just get Netflix. We have a bunch of shows on this, and we could just do that. Like, that was the first idea that I ever had I don't know if you guys remember that Netflix they send you the movie and you watch the movie.
Yeah.
And then they started their streaming, and then they sent you that DVD that you can plug onto your recorder that would stream from the DVD. Do you remember that?
Yes, and that's so crazy that some people don't.
No, I still have that DVD. I have the Netflix DVD that let you stream. Yeah, they sent you a streaming DVD. You would put it in your DVD or recording device or whatever that you had, or a playing device, and you would play it, and then it would sync up to your internet, and then it would stream through that.
And then they murdered Blockbuster.
And then Blockbuster was like.
On that note, I have to say, I think the last Blockbuster closed this past year, 2018, somewhere in, I think, southern Alaska.
Yeah,
maybe.
Alaska.
Yeah.
Really? They closed?
Yeah.
I was rooting for them so much.
The last
I was
one.
like, you can do it, buddy. It's okay. They finally close it.
Yeah. So that's it. They're gone.
My heart goes out to Southern Alaska. I just want to let you know, if you do hear this, I really do feel for Blockbuster, because that was my jam. That was Friday night.
I do miss Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Right here
The candy.
around my
God.
house,
Yeah.
the local Blockbuster, was right on Edwards and Edinger, and today it's got converted finally and opened, actually just this week, into a dance studio.
Oh.
It's gone for good.
That's
But I mean,
kinda cool,
it's been
though.
turned around into something new.
Yeah.
Something
Okay.
good in its place.
That's something.
That's fine.
Evolution.
Mine's an
Okay.
invitation.
Yeah.
Evolution. All right. I'll give you that.
I was expecting like a weed business.
Oh, we
Yeah.
just-
Yes,
Hey.
I mean these
Legitimate
days,
now,
it
so.
is exactly. That's my point. I'll kind
Well,
of
speaking
not
of
to
that,
because I want to keep things moving, but I do have some things I want to come back to that we've already mentioned.
Sure.
Okay.
What do you guys think about the? Ooh, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you. You read my mind. What do you think about the change in our collective fortunes? And I was going to ask, what is your personal relationship with marijuana at this stage? So let's maybe just jump into like
God.
what I know. I see, because I know Ivan personally, right? So I know where this might go, and this is good stuff.
Oh
This
my
is good
gosh,
stuff.
I miss weed so much. I really do. It was honestly, it was one of the best times of my life. It really was. Like weed was. I got into really heavy smoking when I was 16? About 16, 17. I had my first try in it when I was 14, and then after I was like, no, I'll never do it. I swear I won't ever do it. And then my first job was California Pizza Kitchen, and I was a host there. And there was a bunch of hosts that they were just smoking, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, let me just try it and stuff. And I was like, we had our own little group, and we'd smoke every single night. And we weren't like, let's just go to somebody's basement and smoke. We were at fucking adventurers. Like, we would go out, like, in the middle of the night, we'd go to the beach and just fucking take out a 3-foot bong and just smoke on the beach. Like, we were,
Damn!
like, we didn't give a shit. Like, we would get off of work and then go and smoke weed all sorts of places. We would go find parks and we would run around the park, or we would go and one of the coolest things that we did, it was at UCI. There's a parking structure in the back, and it's right next to the police station. And we would park at the police station because all the cops were gone because they were doing their patrols. So we would park at the police station.
That's smart.
Oh, wow.
We would park
That
at the
is
police
scary.
station, and because the cops were all gone, so we're like, you know what, fuck it, let's just park there. They're not gonna come back.
Oh my God.
So, and then we would run across the street, and the parking structure was completely empty. And so we would take our longboards, we would take the elevator, go all the way to the top, just smoke, just blitz out of our minds, and then longboard we would longboard for 4 hours. Just get on the elevator, go to the top, smoke another one, and then just go all the way down, and then do it over. There was no cars. It was great. It was this euphoric time in my life that was just phenomenal, and I miss it. And then my dealer got rolled.
Oh boy.
So my dealer was this guy in high school, and he was great. He was just really cool dude, and everything was fine. And I would go and get him. He hit me because we were friends in high school, so he knew me. And then when he started dealing, he would give me really good deals. And so I would just come up with all sorts of crazy strains, and it was really really top notch, like almost medical, like when they first started and shit. And so it was really nice weed. And then then he got rolled because he decided that he was going to start selling harder stuff.
Oh no.
And so he got swatted and he got taken, and I was dry. And so for like 2 weeks, I'm like, I'll be fine. I don't need weed. Like, it'll be okay. And by the second week, I'm like, I'm dying. I miss it. And then
But did you miss the marijuana, or did you miss the experiences that it provided?
I think I miss the experiences. Honestly, to tell you the truth, because I was fine afterwards, but I think it was just, it was a weird time in my life where I just, like, I had family issues at home. I was still trying to figure out whether or not I was going to go back to school. Like, it was just a situation where I just said, I just wanted to live. You know, and I feel like everyone's had that moment where you just want to live. You know, fuck everything else. Let's just put everything, you know, on let's shelve it for whatever time we need it, and let's just shelve it and I just want to live. So I miss the experiences, and then a buddy of mine hits me up and says, oh, there's this guy, he's on deck. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. And so I go over to his house. I remember going up to his house, and it was this bro full on, bro, like nautical stars on his shoulders, like backwards hat, like he was wearing the Dickies with a pulled up, like it was,
Socks.
yeah, pulled up socks. He was cleaning his white lifted truck with, it was just, I go up, he's like, hey man, what's up? What's going on? Are you Ivan? Gives me this like 35 like figure handshake thing. And I was like, oh, hey, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, man, I got this. He's like, this is Trainwreck. It's going to be the shit. I was like,
that was the name of the weed?
It's Trainwreck.
Trainwreck?
Trainwreck.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Very popular still.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, at the time, like, Trainwreck could mean anything. You know, it's like, now that you have dispensaries and you have a bunch of things, Trainwreck is Trainwreck.
Yeah.
You know Trainwreck. It's the brand. It's the name. Back then, it could have been anything. But, but...
Quick side note here, because I temporarily worked for a weed business.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the strain, what you're getting, like, say Jack Herrera is, like, a really popular one.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it says Jack Herrera doesn't mean it's exactly the same as, like, the other Jack Herrera.
True that.
Oh,
Yeah.
See, I've been outside of the weed game for such a long time. Like,
yeah.
I was under the impression that was the strain, it was the mark, it was like, this is what we're, serving.
No, I think it mostly just follows the qualities of that particular batch, because each batch I think is different when you grow marijuana. So it's not always going to be exactly the same. It just depends on like the conditions that you have it in. But I used to package it, and we were also in charge of naming, but I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't know how to name weed strains. Like, you have to give me some information, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it was just like, nah, name it whatever you want, just make sure it sounds like sweet, or name it whatever you want, make sure it sounds like funky, and
Okay.
So sometimes we would name it certain things, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's that exact.
So you just break out.
I wonder, like,
words.
going off a little topic here, I wonder if now places, like, have their strains and they call it that, instead of just being like, oh, call it whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they make up new names too.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, they definitely make up new names once in a while.
All right.
On that note, I'll jump in real quick and say I've chased some like really extraordinary weed. Cherry Kush, for example, comes to mind.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
The one time I did get it, it was amazing, and it was everything that someone talked it up to be. And I got it 2 times after, like after a year, different places, nothing like the same thing. And the same thing goes for Purple Rain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
that's different strands, and then they're different.
Yeah, some people claim to have Purple Rain, but like it when you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like holy hell.
Yeah.
All right.
Best sweet I've ever had.
Well, I stand corrected. With that being said, he gives me this weed, and I go home and I'm like, I'm fine, and I smoke out, and I feel like my heart is coming out of my chest. Like, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't do anything. Series of adventures later, I threw the weed away because by the end of it, by like the 3rd or 4th time that I smoked out with it, my brain was fried. Like, literally fried. Paranoia hit me super hard. I locked myself in my room. Like, it was really, really bad. Like, still to this day, I feel like it was laced with meth.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was it laced with something?
I feel like it was laced with meth, and heavily, because I lost a friend because of it. Like, not dead, obviously, but we lost a mutual connection because she thought I was gonna kill her when we smoked.
What?
And it was a thing, but after that, paranoia hits me super, super hard now.
I feel ya.
I miss it. I really do. I love weed. Like, I'm super, super big advocator for weed, but now because it hits me in such a negative way, I can't trust myself with it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like every now and then I'll feel adventurous enough to be like, oh, I'll take like a puff of something, but never to the point in which I was.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Like, I mean, it's like, it's something to calm me down. It's, I mean, religious in places, it's spiritual in others, and I feel like me personally, I feel like I'm missing out on something, but I have to take care health-wise me.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
smart. It's smart that you recognize that too, especially.
Yeah.
So
We all have experiences like that where, we just something happens and we're just like, I
Yeah.
There's
I
a
can't-
wall you
I can't-
cannot do.
I
You
can't do-
cannot break
You
it.
you
anymore.
found the limit, and then the limit is like that's I grew up.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. It's like, oh well, okay, this is where I grew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of never know when that's going to pop up, like that
No,
kind of moment
you
and that kind
never
of
know.
decision.
Yeah.
It's rare.
That is a part of growing up, though. It's
Yeah.
finding what your limits are and
Mhm.
knowing which ones not. But I mean, that's why you're supposed to go out and be adventurous in your 20s. Try things to the max. See how far you can go with this one thing.
Yeah.
So that way, you know that if you do that thing again, you're like, oh, okay, here's how far I can get to where I will enjoy myself and have fun and be responsible, which I think is a
Yes.
lot of limit that a lot of people do not have or do not understand.
No,
Respect that.
understanding
Yeah.
the limit. I think that's the biggest thing right now. It's understanding the limit because you can go, like you were saying, you can go out, go balls to the walls when you're 20,
Mm-hmm.
go fucking haywire, but understanding your limits, I think that's what defines where you start becoming wise, because it's not necessarily a maturing thing, because you can just mature just pure that wisdom. I think wisdom is so much better than just I'm mature now.
Mm-hmm.
And wisdom is gained through unpleasant experiences.
Yet again, and it comes back around
Comes
to
back
the
around.
it comes back.
Talking
You need
about
to have
pain and struggle,
you need to
perhaps.
have adversity.
Making
You need
a-
to have
A
you need to
person.
have something wrong happen before you can have wisdom behind it.
So I put necessary in question mark. I think we can cancel that out now. So, yeah,
Oh,
yes.
I'm impressed
yes.
with us that we brought that full circle.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
see that coming.
it's going to keep happening
There you
organically.
go.
and
It
bring
just
back
came
around.
back around.
It's very. See, I'm really big on kind of like a tragic Sisyphean, Promethean kind of way at looking at life now, where and I kind of like laugh at all the bad deals that fate throws my way, and everything else that was bad, I've turned to something good. You know, I mean, it took that injury, for me to figure myself out, because I hadn't stopped in like 12 years to like look at myself and live my life.
Yeah.
So that totally worked out. So in so many ways, I'm in love with and totally agree with that view, and that's what intentionally why I brought that up. I wanted to see how we could flesh that out, maybe.
Yeah.
So
You need to be able to have adversity in order to be able to rise above it.
yeah,
And it's the same thing with mistakes. You need to have mistakes in order for you to learn from them.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to just have that. And that's another thing that you were saying. It's all like having the society right now and how soft it is. So
there we go.
So
That's what I want to get into.
yeah.
The rest of us.
So what you were saying was, let's take for example our last generation or the generation before that, having them go through strife, having them go through what they did so that their kids wouldn't have to.
Are you referring to like the baby boomers?
Yeah, baby
Before
boomers
us?
or anything like that. Even
Would you say like the
even
Gen X,
80s,
like
yeah,
the 80s
even
and, like,
even
those
Gen
people?
X and stuff like
Okay.
that. Like the generation before us and the one after that.
Yeah.
They didn't want things to happen to us a certain way, and those things aren't happening because of their strife. But now we have very little strife, or the strife that we're going through right now is something that we can't even learn from. You know, it's like, what? How can we learn? It's the biggest strife right now that comes to mind is going to school. Biggest strife. You learn, but you have to pay this much.
Mm-hmm.
And the strife is, how do I pay that much?
Mhm.
Right. And you can never pay that much
or-
unless you go through it.
Or should I even go to school in the end? So, and then if I don't go to school, then what am I? Because everyone's told me I have to go to school to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
You see the strife? It's like, so that's the strife that we're kind of go through, but we can't learn anything from it. I mean, it's out of our control. That's government saying, hey, we're going to help you out to go through school so that you can become something, or hey, you're just going to have to pay us like everybody else. Like, there's no control other than the fact of, oh, I will go to school or I will not go to school. So how do you learn from that?
I think that we're really stuck in a system where we're just producing semi-educated human beings on a factory scale. I think that's my main worry. I think that these systems are very old. When they're updated, I don't think they're really in everyone's best interest anyways. And what is the total, intention of these systems that have established?
Well, just out of curiosity, what kind of schooling do we have in this group? Because I know had some schooling at a community college.
I have hands-on, like what would be a trade? Trade.
Like a
I have
trade
trade.
school.
Yeah, I have trade education.
Devin, I don't know what kind of college experience you have.
I public school
Mhm.
my whole life, and then I did about 4 or 5 years of community locally at Golden West College, Huntington Beach, and then I did 2 years and some like summer sessions at Cal State Fullerton College.
Okay. Did you graduate?
With a bachelor's in history.
A bachelor's in history.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Caitlin?
I'm currently in school working on my associates in biology at Fullerton College. And thank
Very
you.
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
biology is
And
great.
then my bachelor's in something, I'm not sure what exactly yet, but probably something bio related. But before that, I was private school for like 6-7 years.
Private
in high
school.
school.
Private school.
How was private school?
Private school as a very young girl.
Like, what
It's
was it? Was it elementary or was it like middle school, high
Elementary.
school? Elementary.
I spent all of elementary in private school.
If I may
And-
interject real
Mhm.
quick, religious or
I'm not religious anymore.
oh no, but
No,
was
no,
the
but was the
organization
private
with-
school
that's what I
religious?
mean then.
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
religious
Yeah, private
private
school.
school. That was even
Yeah.
more interesting. How was that?
Yeah, that's traumatizing.
Because that's imprint. That's like that imprints
I feel
on
like
you,
that's
really.
a whole
It really
different
does.
topic.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Yeah, so private Christian elementary school, going to public school, junior high, and high school.
Okay.
Best years of my life, probably. Besides like early college.
And then a 4-year that you're working at.
And
right
then,
now.
yeah, I'm a bachelor's that I'm working towards right now, on and off in school, but now serious.
Okay.
Because my 10-year reunion is this year from high school.
10-year
Ooh,
reunion.
yeah.
Year.
I didn't go to my 10-year reunion.
I don't know if I will.
I did not go to mine either.
I'll pass it
Not
up. That's a whole. That's a
So
whole
we,
life away from me.
so there you go.
okay.
That's everyone right there.
Yeah.
And what's your education level here?
I went to public school all through
Mhm.
elementary. I went to 2 different counties of public school, which was interesting because I did LA County for elementary and half of my middle school experience, and then I was in Orange County
Oh,
for
interesting.
the other half of my middle
That
school
is
and
a big
my high school
difference.
experience, which is also a very big difference.
Yeah.
And then I made the mistake, I would say, of jumping straight into a 4-year university, to which I could not finish because it was so expensive. I couldn't afford to keep going.
Right. Yeah.
So at the moment, I stand as a sophomore in a 4-year university with my degree in chemistry.
oh, wow.
So,
Ooh,
yeah.
yes.
So there was definitely some struggles. along
Girl,
the way
I know
with
how hard that is, okay? Oh my god. Chemistry. Ugh. Okay.
Now,
I love it, but it's hard.
Now we're talking
Okay.
about struggle and pain, and we're getting into education. If I wanted to kind of jump in and say, I think we might be able to kind of talk about this from different directions. But based on all of our education, it seems that, and this will tie into something else we brought up, information and knowledge education.
Mhm.
It seems that outside the systems that we have all been brought up in, this stuff already exists. It's just accessible in different ways, and it's ever more accessible today, and is going to be ever more accessible as time goes on. Knowledge is essentially free, right? And to an extent, and the,
None
the
of
internet,
knowledge is free.
and the
None of it.
internet, and the
Unless
you pay a cost. You pay a cost. for it.
unless you go out of your way to go to a library and sit and actually like and think about it this
Still
like,
costs you time.
yeah, well, I mean, not even that. Not even that.
It
All right,
does.
not even that.
It
So
does.
the immediate knowledge that we have is our phone. Everything that we ever want to know at any given time is in our phone, right?
It's a stream of knowledge.
Yeah,
I would,
yeah,
I would
well-
argue that there's a cost. You pay the time for it. Until we get updated, technology driven,
Mhm.
it's a time issue.
Yes, it's a time issue.
Okay.
Yes.
Should agree on that.
I agree. I agree. I agree with.
There's a cost.
No,
There's a cost.
I agree with you.
And maybe
but
that's
it's physical as well.
Mm.
You have a phone. How much does your phone cost you? How much does a plan cost you? If you didn't have a phone, if you didn't have a plan, I couldn't say,
Okay.
hey, who was that actor that was in 1982 movie? Blah blah blah. I don't know. Let me look it up. See, information is readily available to us at any given time, but
Mhm.
it's physical still. Going to school is still physical. Looking it up is still physical. anything besides a public library, which nobody goes to, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
My dad's
honestly,
a librarian.
There you go. Unfortunately, like, the library has so much knowledge, but the thing is that, yet again, it goes into the time thing. So you're paying time in order to go that. Nobody has time. Everybody lives within a 5-minute click.
Yeah.
Your lifespan is a 5-minute click at any given time before you do something else. So if you're looking at information is not free at any given price. Whether it's time or whether it's physical, and the majority of the ready available information right now is going to be physical, whether you think about it or not. You know?
But that's a basis of any argument. I would agree with you, except for the fact that what I believe Devin's trying to say is that the fact it's going to be a cost past anything that would be normally or expected. Because yes, we have to live, we have to provide, a kind of lifestyle for ourselves for us to be okay. If you make that the baseline, anything beyond that point is what I would consider like a distracting style of cost.
Okay, so you're talking about lifestyle right now. Lifestyle to us, California, is set by where we're at. Let's just talk about that. Lifestyle to a person in Arizona is going to be way cheaper than us. So we are preoperatively, like, our lifestyle is at right here because we chose our baseline because we chose in order to stay here. But that's the thing, it's like that baseline is set not by just us, but everybody that's around us. Mm-hmm. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, so the information in itself is not free. No information right now to this day is free. Whether you're doing it just because it's a lifestyle or whether or not you're doing it to try to find something that's more meaningful, as in, let's say, for example, I'm trying to find my long-lost brother. Mm-hmm. I need that information. You need to get yourself a detective or blah, 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 and all this stuff.
Living your lifestyle is not free, no matter where you are.
So then does information equal lifestyle? So the more you know, the more you want information, the more you're trying to strive for is how much more I'm paying?
No, I feel like that's a must. I mean, you guys can tell me what you think, but
I think I found a space to jump in. It seems that in every way we're developed by our surroundings. Now, I'm going to use my degree a little heavy here for a minute. There's something called geographic determination. Mm-hmm. It's a theory that I happen to believe in heavily, that if you look long enough in history, you see the actual geographic landscape makeup of the world determining largely human events. Mm-hmm. High competition in the
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So like if something has more vegetation versus another, there's going to be much more warring factors over that vegetative land.
You see high competition in the Middle East. That's why you have a lot of ancient civilizations there. Well, I would say even further back, but here's the thing. Who fed off that culture? The Greeks. The Greeks had even more infighting. Who kind of, I think, developed them. They sipped off the Eastern culture, developed even more. Was the kind of seed of our Western culture based off an Eastern root. But competition drove all of that. Geographic determination, I think, is the most basic explanation for that whole cross of culture till today.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's so... Thank you very much. I think that there's so many examples. That's just a really, really, really tiny, really petty example, by the way, for all listeners. I could go into more in-depth at a later point right now, but I just want to say that that's a geographic determination example. Thank you very much, sir. Let me break another one of these guys.
Which is still true to this day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we can all kind of just recognize that. I think that, just think of, just in an American historical sense, let's just say, for example, the move west. Geographic determination determined how we created our manifest destiny and how that was actually carried out through wagon trains, through individual explorers, Lewis and Clark further back. Yeah. And so, thank you very much, Robin. So if you think about these things as how having a huge impact on our historical development, let's recognize that, okay? Let's recognize, for example, the education aspect. Thank you very much. The educational aspect of where we got our education. Robin was sharp to point out where she got her education. LA and Orange County. I'm all eight. That's deadly. I'm going to hold off right now. No. I better. I'm on keto. Right?
You can't have brownies just yet.
Not just yet. I will.
Not just
I
yet.
will. I promise. No. Oh, I can smell the sugar. Oh my god. Oh, that smells good. Jesus Christ. Shit.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that smells good.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. I haven't had sugar in so long. I mean, the liquor's the most sugar. Don't worry. No. It's good. Don't worry.
So sorry.
Don't worry. I realized I was going to drink tonight, so like I'm already breaking. It's all good. Like I'm supposed to have a cheat day.
I just saw the box of brownie mix at the store, and I was like, I have to have
That's a
it.
good move. That's a good move. That's a really good move. Don't worry.
You, me, I need you.
Anyway, so sorry we interrupted your train.
No, that was going to be about it. You're good. I can jump right back in. So we recognize that where we are has a huge impact on total development. Let's just say that, right? And no doubt on everyone else and the systems that are in place. So I think we can recognize that. And even some of these systems developed due to where they came from. For example, we in the West, specifically in America, are actually, I think, pretty heavy Christian.
Yeah.
Culturally, I want to say, right?
Yes.
Or at least we still hold that baggage on a lot. Maybe much more than Europe collectively, maybe.
Oh,
right? Because it's such a firebrand type of
yes.
Christianity. So let's
Right.
recognize that. That's a really old.
It's hard not to recognize that.
Right. So that's a very historically old thing that is geographically determined.
Yeah.
Like several thousand years ago.
Yes.
Okay, that didn't come out of America. They came out of the Middle East.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's recognize that, and yet that's we're the most Western of countries, they say, and like let's consider that that's the incredibly powerful part of our culture is out of Asia. Like the Middle East is Asia. Like the West is, I would say, Asian.
Influenced so much because of the
Yes,
East.
yeah. So let's recognize that in a huge way, and then also recognize those small ways in which geography determines everything about us. Okay.
Oh my god, it really does.
Mhm.
Do you see
It
that?
really does.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, and I think we touched on stuff like this in ecology a lot when I took ecology almost a year ago. That it was a lot of like, wow, when you really take a microscope and look at our surroundings, you really start to understand that everything is there for a reason. And like everything around us is exactly the way it is because of nature, and there's a reason.
Now, are we talking about infrastructure, or are we just talking about just the geographical? Like,
I'm just talking about geographical.
Like geographical
Nature.
impact on society,
Yeah.
Mhm.
not necessarily infrastructure, because
Okay.
I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, because that's just another thing. I mean, California, we shouldn't have any water. We're in the desert. There shouldn't be this many people here. But why do we do it?
The
Because the
weather.
weather's nice.
the weather.
Exactly.
Because the weather's
Yeah.
nice.
I'd argue on that front that we're actually quite water fat, to use a Frank Herbert Dune term. Right? Like,
Okay, all right.
like our
elaborate.
Our culture here in SoCal has developed because we've always had an excess of water, and yet the SoCal Basin is hugely culturally. I mean, we've got Hollywood, right? Like
Mhm.
we are. I'm sorry. There's two cultural hearts to America: New York, LA. That's it. I'm sorry, rest of America. That's the truth.
It's-
Pardon us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like there's a hot spot on each coast, but that's the way it is. And on the West Coast, yeah, there's a little bit of a tie between the Berkeley, San Fran, and SoCal scene, mostly in LA though.
Yeah.
But like, that's the honest. It's New York and LA,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the way it goes. But LA in
Yeah.
particular, here we're
But
water
it's because,
fat.
but because
right? We've
it-
always
what
had
it- what it
excess.
produces.
Yeah.
LA produces so much, not just in. I mean, it produces entertainment in itself.
excess.
Yeah, in excess.
Yeah.
In excess. Worldwide.
And I would argue that resources had a huge impact in it. So I think that we can also argue at this point that the resources you can extract from some points can enrich other places. Okay, America is a great example of resources, and then our power to extract our own resources allows us to reach across the world, and now we are the greatest empire the world has seen, which I think we can say without, reservation.
Yeah.
Humble viewer,
Yeah. Anyway, sure. We are great.
just wanted to point that out. We're not bagging on America. We love you.
Yeah.
We are you.
Yeah.
That's something we got to point out.
Just because we don't always agree with doesn't mean that we all can't be in the same country.
Exactly.
We could be better, but we all have our flaws.
I was gonna say, actually,
before we jump into that, I was also gonna say. So I brought up that point to propose a theory right now.
Ooh,
okay,
it's
so
theory time.
Yeah, so geographic. So we fleshed out this geographic determination thing that I kind of believe in to an extent. So that has a huge impact on all of us that we recognize, right? Culture, right?
Okay.
So there seems to be also a pressure. If geography affects society and individually, we're all part of society. But also that effect on society total, I'd argue, has a huge effect on individuals in a total way in society, fitting into society. I think there's a monumental pressure because of this perhaps geographic determination that society then puts on you to conform. And so I think that as much as we understand culture and society, we need to understand the pressures on culture and society to understand our places in it. And then I think from there we could jump into the rest of American culture.
Okay.
Here's the only thing, and this is really interesting that you said this, because this is something that I was talking to Ivan with earlier today. Because my world isn't very big. You know, I worked at Cheesecake for a long time, but now having worked with this new company, I am in a way discovering a whole new world of people and tasks and responsibilities and priorities and money, and trying to reevaluate how I look at all of those things in an adjustment to my new way of life now. But one thing, so what you could say is I've been thrown into a different society. I have a whole new type of people in my life that I have to find a different way to react to. As much as I may want to try and conform to be like them to fit in, it has also taught me the significance of being different in the ways that I think are more important to be different. There's a lot of things that I don't mesh with these people that I realize I don't want to mesh with these people. So kind of throwing myself into that society, like, different way of thinking has also kind of impacted me to be more stronger of my own person. So you could also say it goes kind of the opposite direction as well.
I think that's a huge thing. I think that there's certain people who naturally perhaps, or through their life experiences, and I think it might be both. It might be both how you're wired and what you experience. But I think that there's certainly those who end up kind of thrown against culture, against society, against your family even, or your group per se, and you just don't fit, right? I mean, part of me, I looked whiter than some of the white kids I went to school with, but my last name was Brown, Guerrero. They all let me know every day. Like, yeah. Like, I mean, like, how the fuck does that work? Right? Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, but then at that point, it's just situations are shitty for a lot of different people.
Certainly.
Growing up is shitty. I mean, anybody can look in their past and look at one moment that defined, like, they cannot forget, that they'll think about or mull over or go, it's like, even, here's another thing that I don't believe. I don't believe the people that say, oh, the past is in the past and we should just look forward and fuck everything else. I feel like people do mull every now and then.
They certainly do.
Every now and saying, okay, see, here's the thing, is do you look at that kind of a mantra and you're like, oh, yeah, sure, fuck everything?
No, but I have met people that said the past is in the past and we should just look to the forward and fuck everything else. Like, it's more of like, you know, the past means nothing, and we should just move. And,
I've met those that I don't agree with that.
Exactly. But I have met people like that, and I don't believe that. I believe that we learn from our past to be better in the future.
100%.
And we should be able to look in the past, and, like, just as a movie, and just kind of sit back. Like, if you were just remember you just looking at yourself as a child playing a game or something like that, and you're sitting in the corner just looking at yourself, just mental envisioning. and seeing a situation that happened, whether it was cruel, whether it was happy, whether it was something and stuff like that. Like every single time that you go back, you miss something. You look at it, you learn from it, and I feel like that makes you a better collective person by being able to meditate on the things that made you you. Which is, I feel like, what meditation is. Just being able to reflect. Reflection is such a great thing to be able to have to become a better you. Look at the things in your past. Look what made you you. Obviously, you cannot change them, but you can change the things that are in the future. You can change you in the future. You can change you even right now to be better in the future. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe in a person that would say, fuck the past.
That one, you kind of like cringed at that one a little bit too, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may, real briefly, we're going to come up on 1 hour right now. So that's our first hours, guys. I'm going to break into it. Next section.
Do we need drinks? Do we need anything? Are we good?
Yeah, let's get. I'll probably.
I'm still okay with this. We still have the bottle going, but I want to try some of what she was
Oh yeah.
she was having over there.
Oh yeah. Once your glasses are empty, I'll make them for everybody.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone? I think I might break the restroom real quick. Anyone want to dive out for a second?
Yeah, we
If we're
can
gonna
hold
do
for a
another,
second.
if we're doing another hour, then yeah, I'll probably pop to the restroom too, just because I don't want to leave in the middle, and I'd rather just do it now to be safe.
Yeah. I'm ready to just go real quick, and then I can jump in after. Yeah. You want to get?
We're good.
Yeah.
All right. This is going to be
Rain
recording.
chick.
The rain.
Oh, do you have a bottle opener in here, Mike?
Yeah. Let me bring one back in. I used to have one. I'll have it. Actually, you can use my keychain right there.
Oh, great.
Perfect.
All right. Oh, sick. I haven't seen a rain stick in a while.
When I was a kid, I remember being in kindergarten, first grade, and you know how the teachers always had some sort of instrument like in the corner? Do you remember that?
Yes.
So, like, teachers always had some sort of instrument, and rain stick was usually one of them. The one thing that I remember that I was so impressed with the rain stick was the longevity of the rain. Because I was like, there's not enough stuff in here to be able to make that much noise for that long. And I remember this as a kid going, how is that possible? So like when they would turn it, I was all like, and then all of a sudden you would hear the rain, and you're like, oh wow, it's gonna end pretty soon, and then it just kept going.
Yeah, dude, those things are awesome. I just took a folk tale class.
It keeps going. It's still surprising to me.
I took a mythology and folktale class.
Okay.
And I learned not only like different mythology and folktales, but the cultures that surround them and like how the way they told stories impacted their culture. And if you think about it, it's true. And I think it's so cool that like old African mythology comes from like African tribes telling stories through dance and like participation, and like that's a huge like way to tell stories. And if you look at their culture, they thrive on dance and they love stories, and their culture is like the culture that expresses it more through movement, I think, and you can kind of see it.
The story through movement.
Yeah, and that's African folktales and mythology. And then you have Native American folktales and mythology that were always based on like something very moral and principle, and always like one with nature, and like I don't know, just the way different cultures tell stories is very fascinating to me. So the rain stick is indicative of like that culture and their storytelling.
Of a story time. You know, it's all like, let me hear a story. The rain stick comes out.
Like that's so cool.
Yeah.
No other culture does that, you know? I love studying like different cultures.
I think the one biggest thing that for me is I equally adore and loathe human nature. I feel like human beings are incredible. They're impactful and surprising and just one of it's a perfect creature, you know. So like, I mean, with all its imperfections, I don't know. I like, this is something that I've always kind of mulled over. Yet at the same time, they're capable of so much pain and so much harm, and to be completely non-perfect.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
And to be human is to be all of that.
Yeah, to be human is to be all of that. And so there's an equal part love and hate. And it's not even love and hate. It really is to the nth degree love and hate. It's adore completely, you know, like abhor completely.
Yeah.
You know, it's you can see those two things in human nature, and I think humans are you know how they say, you know, what's your favorite animal? Humans are my favorite animal because of that, and so
True that.
it's
Those are true fucking words right there.
and it's always been one of the biggest things for me is human nature.
It's good. It's like a pina colada
What you got?
party in
What
your
you
life.
got?
I am
Try
going
my
to finish. I'm
fruity
going to
drink.
finish this, and I'm gonna want one of those pretty soon.
Yeah, all right. That's. I
Yeah.
agree on that. Let's like. I'll be like really cool and responsible for a minute, and because I know this is a local guy, if I'm not misunderstood. Flying Embers Kombucha. I think I did a different flavor last time. This is lemon orchard, and it's with lavender, mint, and ginger, and it's damn fine, and it's even better with a little bit of Jameson. So
Yeah,
enjoy that at your
Yes.
local Whole Foods or whatever
Cheers.
else. It's really
Cheers.
enjoyable.
Cheers to you guys.
It's good stuff. Pardon me. Oh, that is good. And I'm gonna try this out right now. Why don't you get this little flag right now?
Oh, so this is Ace pineapple cider.
Whoa!
It's really sweet, yeah.
Give that a sip first, and then
Yeah,
whoa!
before you go.
Whoa!
So the cider is already
Ooh,
sweet.
it's soda.
Wow!
But then you mix it with a little bit of Malibu and a little bit of Sprite. Someone told me about this recipe, so I had to try it.
Oh my god! It tastes like an Otter Pop.
That
Yeah,
is
it's
so
really
It
good.
tastes like an Otter Pop. It tastes like what do you guys remember the name of the Otter Pops? It was strawberry shortcake.
Oh my god, they had names?
Yes. You didn't know they had names?
No?
Yes, it was strawberry
What a
shortake. It
sheltered
was
childhood you must have
So
had.
sweet.
I know, especially to you.
the
I'm
blue.
sure.
I
Oh,
remember.
yeah.
I
Oh,
remember
my
the
Lord.
blue one was
Ooh.
French. It was Le Bleu or something like that.
He was, I don't know.
Le
I don't
Blueberry.
remember.
No.
Blueberry.
Oh my gosh. Did you enjoy
Oh
that?
my god! I've never.
Was that
oh my-
enjoyable?
Okay. By the way, everyone, I've been doing keto for like
Yeah.
3+ months easy, and oh my god, like real sugar. That's like. Wow, that's a treat. Oh my god.
There you go. see?
This is
Oh,
a
it's
cheat
like,
day.
It's tart,
This is
too.
a cheat day.
It's like a little tart. like it.
I don't do cheat days, by the way. Everyone, I think a lot of people do cheat. I don't do cheat days, by the way.
If I do a cheat day,
No,
holiday,
no,
it's a cheat
no.
year.
Here, no, here's the thing. It's like coming from one of the people that we work with. They said you need the cheat day. You need it. You
Some
need
people
the
do.
cheat day. You
Some
you need
people
it.
do.
You need to be able to. It was
Dave?
shout out to Dave
Ed
Powell.
Powell?
Oh yeah! Woo!
Dave
Dave! Ed Powell, yeah, he's the man.
Dave Powell.
That Asian god.
Yeah, that Asian god.
A kinesiology major on an intellectual level to compete with the Asian
And
god.
damn
Yeah.
fine. Oh my god.
By the way, just a quick note to listeners: Dave Ed Powell will be appearing on this podcast in the near future.
Ooh, can I come?
We will be recording
we'll be right here
within
too.
the week. And I'll be broadcasting that ideally a day after at least it comes up. But Dave Ed Powell is someone that we all know. He works at Cheesecake Factory Anaheim. He's a kinesiology major. He's a really intelligent individual. There's much more to him than meets the eye. And he himself is very adamant to get on the podcast, actually, because I think he himself, as much as he's a character that we all recognize,
Yeah.
I think he himself kind of wants to get out of that character at times. I think perhaps that he wants to get on air maybe to get out of that. Because
and like be
I've-
deep. Yeah.
I think
Dave has
I
a
wanna
deep
see that.
side.
Yeah.
I know he does. Yeah.
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
I think if you get to know this guy, he has a deep side, and I think that I provided him an avenue that he's going to be able to broach that in a
I'm
big
so
way.
excited to hear
Oh my
that.
goodness!
Specifically on
if
this
you want
podcast.
to, may I come back?
I would I would
I want to
love.
be able to see this.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing with Dave Beppo. I've known the guy for 8 years. He's actually like one of my favorite people at the Cheesecake Factory.
Right.
And he is a person that is just full of life.
Yeah.
Just
Very
full,
much so.
just full of
Very
life
much
and
so.
everything. And I think that there has been a pinnacle moment. And Dave, if you're listening to me right now, I'm sorry, you're just beautiful. There was a pinnacle moment in his life in which he turned it around, and it wasn't just right now. This has been years in the making. Like, I've known him, I've talked to him every single shift that I've been with him. I've talked to him about all sorts of different things, and
Mostly
this has
anal.
Not a bad subject, by the way. Not
but it's been a long time coming, and I'm very excited to hear what he has to say.
I'm
Very
excited
excited.
too. On that subject, I don't know if you have a place to go from here, but I do have an interesting thought. Do you think that people who are generally more intelligent are less afraid of being raunchy?
Yes.
Are you sure? You guys
Wait. One more time. Ask her the question again.
Okay, I want to make sure I understood that right.
Right. Because, okay, this is why. Now I'm in this, like we've talked about, this new kind of idea of people who I feel like I'm the sailor. Like, and in a restaurant, people curse, we drink, we talk about what's your favorite sexual position.
Oh, we sexually harass each other every
we-
single
Oh my
day.
God, that
we go
we
so far
are.
to sexually harass each other on a date. Like, I remember one shift, I walked in, got slapped on the ass by someone who said hi, and then walked away. And I was like, hello to you too. Like,
Yes.
that was my instant reaction, was like, thank you, hello,
Yeah.
for the slap on the
May
ass.
I have another? You missed the other cheek. Come back.
Make it even.
Yeah, that's just pretty much exactly what happened, I think. But it's interesting because I feel like a lot of the people we work with are very smart people.
Oh,
I'm-
super intelligent. Like, hands down,
But they're
ever.
also-
Hands out to the Cheesecake Factory
Yeah.
for being one of the most intellectual places I've ever
Oh
worked
my
with.
gosh. Can I interject with a story really quick?
Go for it.
Please.
Speaking of us being like some of the smartest people, like I see the people that we work with and I totally agree. Like, we have some real smart cookies working at that restaurant and they're just trying to make a living right now so they can be the best self that they can be later on.
Yep.
So keeping that in mind, I saw my old youth leaders at the restaurant a while ago. Like, I would say maybe like 6 months ago. My youth leaders from high school, I went to this Christian youth group and they were some of the best years of my life and I met some great people there and I loved my experiences. I'm just not religious anymore. But I saw my old youth leaders and I loved them and they loved me when I was there. So I said hi and they saw me working there and we started talking and then we got on the topic of my ex-boyfriend who went to the youth group with me and they know him and he's kind of a character.
Okay.
So, I don't think anyone thought that he would get very far in life, but he ended up working for Boeing and I don't know what he's doing right now, but I know he's a successful person and my youth leaders recognize that and they were like, yeah, like he went to work for Boeing and then they look at me and they're like, so what happened to you? Like,
Oh, gross.
wow.
No. What?
yeah,
It's like, what happened? Oh, look at what happened.
Yeah.
No, that's
they
That's
said that
not
to me
okay.
and I was
That's
like,
not
all right,
okay.
nice to see you.
yeah.
I'm gonna go, and it bothered me for a second, but then
Good on you for letting
Yeah.
that shit go.
I just walked away. I don't think they even knew I was upset. I just closed the conversation real quick after that. I don't think they even really meant it in a bad way, but it came across as really bad. And I just say, you know what? No, I know that's not true. Like, I work at a wonderful place. Like,
Yeah.
Cheesecake Factory is like the best restaurant I've ever worked at. And I love everyone that works with me. Everyone's really smart.
Here's the
Like,
thing. It's
we have
all
some
like
good people there.
different folks for different strokes, right?
Mhm.
All right, let's keep that in mind. I've known doctors that have worked at restaurants with their degrees ready in hand and couldn't get a fucking job because there's none. And they have to make ends meet. Work is work. Let's just agree on that. Work is work. Regardless of where the hell you are, just as long as you're working, just as long as you're trying to maintain yourself and better yourself and even just try to live. Work is work. No matter where you're at. And it's unfortunate that, and going back to the human condition and just being a server, we do see a lot of people that look down upon a server and be like, you're the, well, whenever we are the dredge of the earth.
Yeah, but I'd like to see them try to serve.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. It's not like it's not just about the work. It's about the people. It's about maintaining yourself. It's about growing yourself. It's about knowing yourself. It's because I was talking to another server that we had, Jill Rebar. Love you.
Love her. Mm-hmm.
Good
You
one.
want to talk about
Yeah.
someone who doesn't take shit from anyone?
And
Nope.
she
raunchy as fuck.
Yeah, and she's raunchy as fuck as well.
Love you, Jill.
I was talking to her and I was letting her know that I feel like we together make a better group, that we flourish ourselves, that we strive to help each other out and to know the people that are around us more. And she poses questions on me all the time, so it's like it was a back and forth that I had a conversation with her, and I really do feel like I feel like that. Yeah.
Your friends should test you.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Your significant other should test you.
Yeah.
You guys shouldn't agree on every single thing.
No.
You
Struggle.
should be your own people and then respect the other person.
So I think we just reaffirmed right there that struggle is necessary to grow as an individual. I think in the workplace, I think as much as in normal life, because we're talking about relationships, I think struggle, bettering yourself is absolutely important. I'm not about homeostasis achieved through struggle. That's the ideal, right? That you're in that like perfect zone because you're constantly right on top of each other, right? You're always working towards something better. That's the ideal.
It's like if
Even if we
life
can't perfectly get there.
was a graph, it would always be slope, plateau,
Continually.
like continually until you die.
And I would argue, I think we just kind of you horned around to this one. I think when I brought up the demographic determination, I wanted to say that because I was going to lead to a really big point here. That there's some people who I think are just wired naturally and then also determined by society to end up more attuned to other human beings through struggle. Okay? And so if I may, I want to argue that it seems fate, and I'm not supposing any God. Okay. I'm just talking in that regard. Fate, if it was blind, it seems as if certain people, just because of what is thrown at them and what they endure in kind of a tragic, let's even say Grecian way because we're out of the West, then let's say that perhaps what is made out of that is a very rarefied individual. If they face all the pressures that geography and time and space has delivered upon the human being as an organism, and then out of that organism you have individuals. Let's say that you recognize all the faults and you achieve all these understandings. We come back to education, wisdom, not just living, but wisdom, not just maturity, not just growing older through time, but attaining wisdom. Let's say that you could produce very rare individuals, and of those individuals, they might not just land at low levels, they might land at the highest levels. And at the highest levels, they might have a great deal of power. And so between those very rare individuals in society, you then have the most rare, those who have landed at the highest points with the highest amount of power. And so these are people who kind of move then the rest of us through time.
I would counter that.
Well, I mean, we'll jump to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But I would say that it does seem, if we can recognize earlier that geographic determination, that we do end up, perhaps because of fate, with these especially rare individuals that move the rest of us through time. And that's kind of like a big point I want to posit.
The counter that I would say on that side is you're talking about strife, you're talking about adversary, making an individual more wise. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just adversary, blah, 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 blah.
Words.
You know what I mean.
I got you. I was right there.
Equals wisdom. Okay? Because you learn from it in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
If, let's say, for example, that you are in a position to be able to be on a higher rank, say, for example, politicians,
Mm-hmm.
they have an ability to be able to get to the higher rank, to be able to push forward, to be able to do that because of money and where they're at. And maybe I'm wrong, you guys can tell me this I'm wrong, but I've always felt like politicians have a leg up on everybody else because of money, because of where they're at, and because of what class they are of a citizen. You know, it's not like somebody who's able to go to Stanford and whatever and stuff like that for just money. I mean,
you have to acknowledge the fact that, and just for the sake, because I know we're all having our own philosophical discussion about this, you have to understand your own bias in that perspective, because for you didn't necessarily grow up having those same kind of opportunities.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could say, oh, everyone has a leg up, whereas I grew up in a household that maybe did have a little bit more money, but I would not say that going into school that I had more of an advantage over anyone else in my class, simply because I had money. I still had a mom telling me, hey, you need to do your homework. Hey, you need to do this thing. Hey, you need to behave in this way, which eventually actually ended up throwing me into the wrong circumstance, because there was an expectation that comes along with it.
Okay. So we're talking about the expectation that our parents have of us versus where we're at and where we can go. So
I would say the expectation of the circumstance that you're in growing up.
Would you? Okay, so in that sense, would you say that it would be easier for you to be able to get to some higher learning facility or college or whatnot because you are in a specific area versus somebody who lives in a very poor area to be able to get to that same place?
But see, here's the thing. Okay. Let's say I am a B student and I'm going to a school where most of the students get C's. To all of those other students, to the majority of students, I'm doing amazing. I'm getting B's. I'm doing fantastic. I'm going to go to four-year school because I'm getting B's and they're all getting C's and or lower. However, if I'm a B student and I'm in a school where everyone gets A's, I'm at the bottom of the barrel, and I may not amount to very much because I'm getting B's when everyone else is getting A's.
That's interesting, yeah.
Even though I'm the same B student, no matter where I am.
Yeah.
But simply given where you're at,
yeah,
if you could either end up on the top because everyone else is below you, or you could end up on the bottom because everyone else is above you.
Environment is a very important factor.
Yeah, and this was one thing I experienced.
But that's the exact same thing that I was arguing right now. Environment is a very important factor, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, for example, that you have somebody that it's just downtown, like the bottom of the barrel downtown, like you have no leg up, like you're still a bright student, you're trying to get up, but the thing is that you're still part of this community that is just down on its luck, the projects, if you may. Versus somebody in which you lived in a house, you have a 2-story house, and you have neighbors that get up and run, hey neighbor, how you doing? Versus thinking I'm going to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
Those two people are not going to get the same opportunities.
I disagree. You still have the same opportunities.
I don't believe so. I don't believe that. I believe the person who comes from a more difficult neighborhood will have that much more difficult time and effort and money-wise, just everything be that much more difficult than a person who is in a community or a place where you're expected to just be.
You know what?
What do you guys think?
I agree with Ivan.
You do?
I agree with Ivan. And I'll tell you why. Because my senior year in high school, I took an economics class. And while the class was difficult and I wasn't really paying attention, there's one thing I took away from it, and we had to read a book called Freakonomics.
Yes.
Before we started class.
Yes.
I learned so much more from that book and was so entertained by it that I learned more from that than the entire class. And in that book, I believe there's a chapter, basically it was like a story about a mother who named her 2 sons Winner and Loser. And when they grew up, Loser actually became a loser and Winner actually became a winner. And that's because their background, their culture, it's like a metaphor for culture. In that culture, they named their sons Winner and Loser, so the winner is going to be brought up to think he's a winner and he's going to excel at everything because everyone tells him he does. Whereas Loser becomes a loser because everyone tells him that he's a loser and he's never going to amount to anything.
So at one point that person's just going to say, fuck it, I don't care, and then not do anything about it.
Loser doesn't have as many opportunities as Winner does. Who's going to hire someone named Loser versus hiring someone named Winner? They're going to hire Winner. They're not going to hire Loser.
That's the unfortunate part of it. It's like going back to somebody else. Our classes are defined, and especially in California,
it's highly stratified.
Let's go back to the blindness of our circle. The one thing that I wanted to touch on, especially
I want to put
in
that
this
down. Blindness of our circle. I like that.
The blindness of our circle, which is a theory that I have. It says that we are blind to the world except for our circle. We surround ourselves with all these people that we want. All these people that we feel are genuine and are like us and that have this viewpoint, and we center ourselves in this circle and we're fine. Like, everybody is there and it makes us better. It grows our ego. It makes us a better person because that's what people say. Surround yourself with the people that you want to be able to help you grow, to be a better person. But see, here's the thing. The moment that you are outside of the circle, for whatever instance, for whatever time, for whatever reason, the moment that you step outside of the circle, you are thoroughly surprised. Because not everybody is like your circle.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that you step outside, you're like, wow. It's shocking. It's a culture shock into itself.
Yeah.
One of the biggest, about 2 years ago, we went to this festival, and it was out in San Bernardino. And I usually hang out with, my people, and we usually go to festivals that are this way, and we're all happy and go lucky and stuff. And we went to this festival, and even in the line, I looked around and I was like, am I blind? I told one of my friends, am I blind? She's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I spent all my life curating people so that I can be comfortable, having the circle so that I can be me, having the circle so that I can have my viewpoints and not be judged and not do anything. But then I forgot that my circle is so small compared to the world. And now I'm in a place where all these people are just not that way. And so I've become blind because of my circle. So going back to the whole thing, you have people in your life that read books and that do things. Those are your circle. But to me, I don't see that often.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see. I don't.
Yeah, you were very surprised to hear that. Yeah.
I don't see people reading a book or saying, "Oh, I've heard." I tend to surround myself with intellects that read more than I do. But the majority of the people that I hang out with, we don't talk about books. We don't talk about anything. We talk about what's going on right now or what the media is saying or what we're going on. But generally, books are not a thing in my circle.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
so stepping outside of your circle, you become blind. And so that was one thing that I've been trying to remedy these last 2 years is trying to understand the outside of my circle so that I am not blind, so that I'm not surprised. I hate being surprised in that way, because the moment that you jump into a situation and you don't know what's going on and you become jarred and you become tense and all of a sudden you're like, I don't like this, that hatred wells inside of you, that unknowing, that fear of I don't know what's going to happen starts to well inside of you. And then you start to realize, wow, I'm not willing to view another point. I'm intolerant.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the scary part about it.
And
That's
then-
scary.
and you realize you're being intolerant,
Yeah,
and you're
that
like,
I'm intolerant.
I'm
And,
the same as the other side.
yeah, and so
What?
it's
Yeah.
that. Oh,
But-
when I saw that, that scared the living shit out of me.
But do you think that being intolerant of people who judge other people makes you a blind person?
Here's the
Because
thing.
I know there's plenty of people in the world who may not agree with things I agree with, and my not liking those people does not. I don't feel like that makes me a bad person because I'm being intolerant of them. I'm like, I choose not to accept that in my life.
So okay, you choose not to accept it. That's fine, but that's tolerating that person. Do you see the difference? Is that like you can be an intolerable person, and I was like, I don't accept anything
Yeah,
that
you don't
do.
fly into a rage.
Yeah, no,
Fair.
you don't
Yes,
find to a
yes,
rage.
you're
But
right.
by
Very
you saying, oh, you know what, I don't.
Like,
You-
like you do you.
Yeah,
it's fine,
whatever,
but
stuff like that. But that's
keep it
you.
away.
But that's you being tolerant of that person. If they were in the same room of you,
You're right.
you would say, hello, how are you?
Goodbye.
Right.
What's going
You
on
would
at
wish
that
them
point,
well.
stuff like that. And then you would just kind of let them know, but you wouldn't fly in a fit of rage and be like,
Right.
how dare you be this type of person, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
That's true, but I feel like that incorporates a different characteristic than being. There's a difference between tolerable of someone and being aggressive at people.
no, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That aggressiveness came out.
Mm.
Like
Gotcha, okay.
getting outside of my circle,
Mhm.
the moment I realized, hey, these people are not like me, they're shitty people.
You got very mama bear. out of your circle.
Yeah.
just me just saying these are shitty people, that's an aggressive thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped and I came back. I was like, why am I feeling this way? And then I started to realize it's because I'm blind. I'm blind to these people. I put up a wall. I don't see these people generally every single day. And when I see them, I was like, you're a shitty person. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. That's intolerable. That's me not showing compassion, first and foremost, to this person who isn't like me, who may have whatever reasons they are the way that they are. That's me being intolerant of that person, and that scared me because of that aggression. And I think that blindness is a very big thing that we, especially the people that call ourselves tolerable, the people that said we are higher learner, the people that we say that, oh, I have all these people in me that make me a better person. Every single person is going to, that's in my circle, will be like, okay, this is fine. But the moment that those people are outside of the circle, they become intolerant. So then at that point, we are blind. So how do we cure that blindness? Do we stop having a circle? Do we put ourselves in situations which are shitty for us so that we can learn?
I think that it's inevitable that you're going to have a circle. You can't get out of not having a circle because I think it's human nature to group with people who are like-minded and will take care of you. Selecting people is part of who we are and it's part of our biology.
Mhm.
However, I don't remember where I was going with that.
How do you get past that point of being, hey, you do you, versus, hey, this is how it should be, and feeling like you're right and you're better?
Where's that line? Okay, everybody, this is what I was thinking. Everybody thinks those thoughts. Like, you're not alone. Everybody is intolerant of even people that they like. Everybody is intolerant of everybody for something or at some point. What matters is if you act on it. It doesn't matter if you think it, because that's normal. It's natural to think.
But even thinking about it, even thinking of myself, hey, you're a shitty person, that's acting
That's you
on it.
checking yourself. I
That-
say that all the
It's
time.
a survival instinct, too.
Obviously, you have to be. What was I telling you this earlier? It's like you have to have a smidge of worry in every single thing that you do, so
have
you're
to have-
alert.
yeah.
So you're alert, so that nothing can come at you, and
That's
so
a
that
good
you can
point.
be constantly on the ready. I get that.
Yeah.
But the moment that you realize I am being intolerant aggressively towards another person by just being
Mhm.
like, Like that's you reel it in.
Reel it in.
Yeah, you reel it in, but at the same time, like how do you stop that from even happening? Like how do you preemptively stop that from even jumping into your head?
The question that, and I want to know what you think about this
Mm-hmm.
too. I want it is thinking about it as bad, or is it made less bad by the fact that we don't actually act on our thoughts?
So I want to say, because I've heard a lot of this, and I kind of fall in a lot of different places in this regard, but I tend to feel that, yeah, hook Ivan up. This is great stuff.
Yeah, like, you're like sitting there, like, wait a minute, I want some.
This is good, bro.
Daddy needs his fix over here.
I'm gonna need another soon. Okay, baby. Okay, so
I love you. I'm sorry. I'm messing up your
this
diet.
is incredible, by the way.
I am.
You'll have to go back on the podcast, guys. I'm not sure when we introduced this, but this is straight fire. Oh my god.
Oh my god, it gives you life.
Oh my god, yes.
It's like a pina colada soda with alcohol.
Yeah, that is
really
Yes.
good.
And
My
then I
Lord.
just tried this by itself, and I'm like, oh my god, it's bland compared to.
Oh, Lord.
Where you're at, yeah.
But anyway,
No, you were saying.
I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah.
I do because I know you're going through a lot of things, and
Sure.
being outside of the circle,
Mhm.
have not heard a lot about it, and I really do want to know what you're going through and how you weigh in on all this.
Okay.
Me too. If you ever want to talk about anything like that, you can talk to us.
Thank you.
We're here to
Of course.
listen.
Thank you very much. I
And
do. I
help.
really appreciate that. I'll say just right now, because I'm sure probably Cakers will probably hear this first before anyone else. I recently came out to our GM Frank, and so I think there was a recent meeting probably about that.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
What?
You had to have
Yeah.
a meeting?
Well, okay. So I read this figure that like maybe 70% of transgender individuals don't come out at their place of employment.
Okay.
Because, and that just tends to be because of their own feelings. But I'll have to say, being over 12 years in the service industry, I've been harassed at the Cheesecake Factory Incorporated since my first month working for the Cheesecake Factory Incorporated, 2006 summer of at Huntington Beach location. And you can thank Scott Thomas for that.
Harassment?
Yes. And
Like
for,
it's harassment of who you are, or just
for
harassment?
who, rather for what I am as for who I am.
Oh my
Wow.
god.
And
I'm sorry,
so-
I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
That's been my I see. The
I
most
knew you were going through something, but I wasn't sure. Like,
see, it's like coming out has been the result of 12 years of not looking at myself after being harassed continuously at Huntington Beach location. And I want to say that coming to Anaheim, the time between my two cheesecakes, Huntington Beach and Anaheim, I served at a finer dining location, French Vietnamese finer dining. I bartended. I basically managed at times, front desk, served, bus. I did everything. You know, limited manpower. But in the 4.5 years at my first cheesecake, I would argue we were pretty much a different company.
okay.
Like we were always what we were. And then I think the internet era and the new millennium really changed what we were.
Yeah, because you were there about the same time on which I was. It was old timey. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
It was old timey. It was very much like
a
this
man's
is just
world.
we're definitely a man's world.
Yeah.
I remember coming into the Cheesecake Factory when I came in about like
Really?
9 years ago. Al Bianchi, go fuck yourself.
I didn't know this. What?
His team were complete bigots.
I remember
Complete
this.
and
I
utter
went in and I
bigots.
applied when I
And-
first moved back, and he did not want to hire me because he knew you and I were dating at the time.
Yeah.
Oh my god, who cares?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And
who cares?
he was 5'0", just little, just a character of a man, and he was it was old timey, yeah. So just going back to that, it was really interesting to see the way that it was.
So what happened in the transition between the two?
So I'd argue that the social media aspect of our emerging world hit cheesecake. I know that we were courted, like, we were America's favorite restaurant, accordingly.
At one point, yeah.
We were,
I'm ashamed to know that fact, but thank you.
we are, Fortune 500. We're very, exactly.
I'm glad you guys like it.
Oh, it's amazing.
I thought I went a little too far with it, but
more soon, but not right now.
You talk, we'll pour.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll
so
try to make it here.
Oh, I'm good. I'm definitely gonna jump in this time. Thank you very much, sir. I'm gonna love this. I love this. Thank you. I will say that what happened is I think the emerging world we're in, like for example, when I got hired, I remember Jim. Remember Jim? Ivan, remember Jim?
Yeah.
Back in the day. Okay, so Jim's from the old days, but Jim was not quite super old days. Okay.
Jim was willing to at least change. I like Jim. I will come out and I will say it. I like him. I like Jim. It's just because I feel like there was a little bit of like, hey, what's going on? But he really was.
He stayed out of your business to a certain point.
Jim was a few years ahead of Brent, significantly. But they both worked together under Scott Thomas, who was the individual directing my harassment. Okay? So Scott was the GM of Redondo, as I understand it, in corporate lingo. Okay? This is back probably the 80s or earlier, or maybe 90s. As I understand it, verbatim, he was fucking front desk girls left and right.
Ooh, that was Al Bianchi's aim right there.
God.
Al Bianchi, hands down. Right
I want to say right now to everyone,
hands down.
podcast and YouTube, this is verbatim from people who were there. I'm not making this shit up, just as a FYI, by the way. This is the Harvey Weinstein of the Cheesecake Factory. And if I may right now, just say this. As a kind of a nasty company-wide joke for those who know in the SoCal area, let me just say this. This is what people say, and there's kind of a nasty laugh after you say this if you're in the company. By the way. It's the reason we have HR is Scott Thomas.
Oh.
Isn't that a nasty thing to say?
That's gross.
It must have been bad.
I can taste it in my mouth.
That's disgusting. Pardon me. No, let me give you a real good example. So I just said that thing about his time as a GM at Redondo Beach. Now, just in my 4.5 years at Huntington Beach, let me just say Scott Thomas was our ADO, Area Director of Operations. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Eric is our current one. Pardon me. So in that time at Huntington Beach, I know that Scott knocked up one of the servers on our staff. So,
you can't hide from that.
So Cheesecake Factory.
You're not hide from that.
Right. So he has this reputation. For whatever reason, he gets promoted. Right? Okay. He gets promoted. Okay. So let's think about that. Right?
Okay.
So he gets promoted.
God.
And then he still is putting hands on employees in the company, and that's looked over. I don't know. Oh, okay. But then you look at people like Brent Benedict, BB, who we know and love. If you had a chance to work with him,
he hired me on. He was GM when I got hired.
A fantastic human being, right?
He seemed nice, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know him that well.
Like if you worked with him, if you got on the level with him, if you got on individual level with him.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to be.
We were very lucky to get to spend a day with some one-on-one time with him.
Yeah. He was an extraordinary individual. Now, if I may say, 18 plus years as general manager, why didn't he have Scott's job? What is our company doing? Are we rewarding toxic masculinity? Are we rewarding toxic power? What are we...
Right.
The Me Too era didn't exist back whenever Scott was GM. Okay, someone higher up decided to move Scott up just based on what?
Well, it could have been a moving out situation. That's the unfortunate part about it, is that if I remember, like, way back in the day when priests in the church would get into trouble.
Still to this day.
Still to this day. I'm choosing to focus on more when it was a problem, because I'm not super religious. I don't know if any of us are really super religious in this room right now.
I grew up Catholic, but
I know we all
I
have
got
the
pushed out a
religions
long
we
time
were
ago.
raised
Yeah.
on, but we don't necessarily
Yeah.
identify to those things.
We were
now.
probably all raised in some religion,
Mhm.
and then we all probably denounced it.
But if we're all smart.
Thank you, religion. Thank you for letting us
We need
question you.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
I need a chart. What did Jesus do?
Need a flow chart, yes or no? But no, I mean that also plays into it. Is that when priests were caught doing things with people they shouldn't have been doing it with, they weren't fired.
Right.
They were moved.
Mhm.
And I honestly feel like, unfortunately, in the business world, it's going to be 50% merit, 50% necessity.
Mhm.
Mm.
Brent is
and
a
it's-
great manager, and he is fantastic at what he does. But if you continue to do well, there's no reason to take them out of where they're at.
Isn't that so messed up? Now, doesn't it say something about all the systems of power we've created?
Well,
And to bring, if I may, bring that back to something we were kind of discussing earlier, is that it seems I was trying to bring up something about maybe how rare individuals could be created by the circumstances of fate. Now, it seems that certain individuals who are not competent, who are really poor and not qualified to carry out the positions of power they occupied, end up in those positions, and how it's ever more unlikely that genuinely rare and deserving and justified individuals ever reach those highest realms of power that
Like
they
our
would be
president.
considered the most rarefied individuals in, pardon me, if I may, not just our current time, but
Yeah.
space and time. And
Oh,
so
yes.
that's if I may just say that if you look throughout time, there are kind of rarefied points in total human culture where individuals moved all of culture. And I want to argue that for good and bad, some of those people have appeared, and that for good and bad, they have to be remembered and also probably vilified.
okay.
So
yes.
if I may give you a really big example just to kind of set us up, and this will probably, I'll get hate for this one. I want to just go up with balls to the wall.
Do it.
Jesus Christ.
Ooh. I thought you were going to say something else.
I,
But
thought
yeah,
you,
I'm
I
going-
really thought you were going to say something
All
else.
right, I'm gonna get.
Can we play this game out of curiosity?
I know. This is me. This is me. I can get a lot of hate for this.
That's okay. Finish it.
Yeah,
Okay,
Because I know I've had some comments.
I'm like about to.
I know you're ready. You're ready. All right, so if I may.
Fantastic job of letting him
I want to
finish
lead
his
into this,
thought.
and because I want to develop the next hour on
Yes,
this. If
yes,
I
I
can.
know.
Yeah.
This should be good.
The next 2
Um,
hours are going to be
at
about
least.
This, so yeah.
Oh my
So-
God, it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm sorry.
we could. I'll be the first to work.
It's all because he said Jesus.
So, if I may,
Flowchart.
some of us will. If I may,
It's going to be me and Caitlin.
we could.
You're
If
the
you're Catholic, we
biology,
start
I'm the
here.
I got the equation.
It's always sunny, Charlie.
This is
Like,
right
This is
after
great.
the science
This is
girls
really
on the
great.
couch.
Okay.
All right. Well,
All right. I'm sorry.
All right, let's
back to topic here. What were you saying?
Pardon me, if I may. So, I think there are so many individuals who occur throughout time, and this is a theory that I've been kind of developing after doing so much reading, and then developing it on my own. Is that so many individuals? Give me like a shot of that guy. Just a shot.
I just want to see what it tastes like.
Okay, well, tell me, and then, then as a judge,
Just
tell
put
me.
some-
That's
some-
interesting. Yeah, because I will give it a little extra juice for brain power.
I don't
Whoa.
know about that.
Whoa, that's
Ladies and
firepower.
gentlemen, that is the man I married.
I will say that's a very sweet drink. It's a very sweet drink.
Don't let him go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
How is that?
It brings out a lot of the sweetness. It
Really?
evens it out.
All right. We gotta stop talking about
Yes.
alcohol.
Okay.
We need to
Okay.
let Devin finish his
All right.
Let the luscious be the luscious.
Okay.
Oh,
Whoa,
gosh.
that's a healthy. Thank you,
That
sir.
was good. You're fine.
To health.
To health.
Yes.
Oh God, yeah, the health if nothing else. Okay, so if I may, there are so many Thank you, baby. I appreciate that. That was gorgeous. if I may, I've mentioned that geography has a huge impact on determination of the human individual. I've mentioned how then geography has a total value on societies that have an impact on the individual, and then geography determines that as well. So, and then, of course, geography is determined by space-time. Our world, for example, has experienced several cooling and heating phases based on greenhouse gases and other natural emissions, whether man-produced or otherwise.
Okay.
Okay, I don't want to get too heavy into the weather stuff. I don't want to go there just right now.
Okay.
And so if we can acknowledge that through space-time, that the human condition has been affected, we can recognize that perhaps certain percentage points indicate that certain rare individuals occur throughout time in positions of maximum power, that they then move people, all people, total perhaps, through space-time, again through space-time.
Okay, so let's regurgitate this real quick.
Yeah.
So you're talking about Alexanders. So Alexander, everyone knows who Alexander the Great is. He moved mountains. By the time he was 21, he already had the majority of it at
23 to 25, somewhere around there.
Right? Okay, yeah. So I may be wrong. He was in his 20s before he conquered, the majority of the known world. So I mean, think about it that time. All right, so let's talk about Alexanders. Yes, there are times in human history in which great people from dire situations that become great, that have become great, are in those situations that move humanity towards a cause. That happens. But I feel like, with that being said, we do learn from those situations. I mean, oppression in itself, think about it, is the first big oppression that we've known was from the church, paganism and everything. What they did was that they took everything from paganism, they tried to bring it into their own and make it so that everybody would be, they have it, we have it too. And then all of a sudden it started to oppress those types of people and be like, hey, you know what? If you don't agree with this, you're heathens. If you don't agree with this, then it turns into something like that. So oppression is a big thing, because those people who oppress understand how humans work.
Correct.
So they will take a person like an Alexander and they will push them to the bottom of the barrel because they don't want that movement to ever happen again. So you see it over and over and over again in now in present time.
Mm-hmm.
So, playing devil's advocate, let's look at the Cheesecake Factory. As you were saying, it's a business. Let's look at that business model. So you were asking why a person who knows how to do something very well stays in a position in which they know how to do that job very well. And why do people of low regard get to have the better positions? First of all, in a business standpoint, like I said, playing devil's advocate at this point, I'm not saying that I condone it.
Right.
I just say
that's the point of this.
I say I just understand it.
Mm.
When it comes to business, humanity does not matter. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
You have one. Yes, it's a power game, but in the end, it's a numbers game. Regardless.
Yeah.
I
think numbers equates power. Numbers,
money, however,
it's
people, money equals power, whatever, and stuff like that. All of it equates to the exact same thing, the power situation, but we get that. It's a human thing. It's a numbers game. The more numbers I have, the better I am.
One power over another power.
Exactly. So if I am a business model, say, for example, the Cheesecake Factory, all right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make this much money. However, I'm going to make this much money, regardless of the human condition, because that's all emotional. We, as human beings, are irregular. we don't play the numbers game.
Right.
We live our lives the way that we want to live our lives. And we're emotional, we're erratic, things happen on a whim. But when it comes to a numbers game, it needs to be exact. This thing needs to happen every single time. And we will get to this point at every single time, regardless of what's going to happen. So think of businesses almost kind of like computers. You type in something and it will come up on the screen. And that will be true to that computer because they don't believe in just general law. They believe in the law that they were programmed to do. So if you were to say, hey, computer, I want you to love this person, or I want you to understand that this person needs to have his day off because his kid is sick, that computer is not going to recognize that. All that computer is going to recognize is, I don't have a person to fit that point, to fit that hole to make this much money. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So a business is definitely a computer. It has no emotion. There's no emotion behind numbers. All it is just trying to get to that equation, however it's going to get to there. So let's look at the situation which you were saying. Brent, he was good at his job. Why didn't he get the regional manager? Because he was good at his job. Because he filled a hole. Because he made this much money. And because the computer saw, why would we even move that person for somebody that's less of equation to make less money just so that we can get that person up to the next point? Well, we can just take some no person or anything that has this much qualification for whatever reason and put them up here. It's a numbers game. It has no emotion. It has no identity to person. It has no identity to the human condition. It's a numbers game. And so, like I said, it's not that I condone it. It's just that we have to understand that when you work for the numbers, all the numbers are going to look at how can I make those numbers again. And when it comes to a multi-million-dollar company, all they're going to look at is how can we stay a multi-million-dollar company.
There you go.
Sure, they can keep as of this generation, we started realizing, it's our people who make our money. So what do? They give us rec time, or they give us something like our break room. That's the best example that I can get us. All right,
That's a good one.
All right, our break room. So when Brent was our general manager at the Cheesecake Factory,
Anaheim Incorporated.
Anaheim Incorporated. He decided that he was going to make our break room a little bit more vivid. So he went out and he got himself some paint. He painted the walls blue. He gave us a nice bench. He put some plastic flowers in the middle to make it a little bit more homey. He got himself some sort of microwave. He got us a little bureau cabinet thing so we can put our stuff in there. They did that right
before I got there,
yes,
didn't they? Because Ariel was bragging about that when I got hired.
I'll argue as being someone instrumental in that management time, the accompanying accessories were provided by Maria Marashenko of Anaheim.
Okay, regardless of, and not to say that regardless of who put them in, mm-hmm. the cost of that to faint happiness and grow morale within the company is a big thing. We didn't gain anything.
Can I interject for a moment?
What?
Just because I do disagree. I feel like that something that could have stayed the way it was with no improvement whatsoever and had still been as useful as it was, he went out of his way to make a small bit of our work life a bit nicer.
Okay, that a bit nicer, but that's the thing. It's aesthetic. We gain nothing. We gain nothing. Going back to the whole computer thing. No, you're talking about human emotion, and I would love to see something happy and wonderful all the time. Because I'm an emotional person, and I like to see things that are bright and colored and stuff like that because that makes me happy. At a computer standpoint, how can we get these people to be more productive?
That's not what that was,
but it was. That's the thing. That's the thing that you don't
Okay.
Ooh,
No,
that
we-
is-
that-
if
no.
I may interject for a point. I'm gonna run out real quick, but I want to say that is the most perfect point, what you guys just brought up, because I think that opens up a whole different can of worms. Because if I may, I will say that it's one thing to analyze systems, like universities as a common example, education systems, family systems, cultural systems, ethnic specific systems, all right? But individual systems. Now, we probably, you got hired by Brent.
Yes.
You were both here when Brent arrived.
I got hired by Jim.
You got hired by Jim. Okay, so between the three of us, we're all here when Brent arrived. I'm with the company. I got hired 06. When were you, Ivan?
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's when we were in Oregon. He got hired in a different state.
I got hired in 2004.
Whoa.
Whoa, wow, you away? That's still old school.
No. That's a lie. I apologize.
It was
7.
It was 2000.
It's
It had to
still
been at
a
least
long
9.
time.
That's still the old school time.
7, 8, maybe.
You're
No,
old
I
school.
lied. I apologize.
No, that's still old school like me. Like I wouldn't say that the company didn't change big until like 2011 at least. I would argue.
Wow.
No,
we-
there was
I
a
graduated
yeah.
high
I was
school in
there for about like
2000.
2-3 years before they yeah. The biggest change was the music.
Yeah, no, that's just
That's how I
day
knew.
about
That's how I know that was the
Yes,
change. It was the
yes.
music.
What
We
was
used
the music before?
classical
Oh.
music
Oh.
24/7.
Oh god. Okay,
like
you guys can dive into that for a second. I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. It used to be like saxophones all the time. It was
Oh my
more
Lord.
instrumental.
No wonder I never went to the Cheesecake Factory when I was little. It was
It
like
was-
a rare occurrence.
It was classical music, hands down. It
It
was
classy as fuck. They
yeah.
were trying to be.
like and here's the thing, it's another business model. You have to kind of mold with however the society is at the time. Back then we were trying to be like a 4-star restaurant.
Right.
We had trays, and when a guest gets up, you have to fold their napkins. And
Oh,
then you
I
have to
was
put it
taught
right
that.
there,
Yeah.
and you
No one
have
does
to
it. Yeah.
you have to box up their food
That's
at
the
the
difference
table,
between how
and
it's accepted.
you have to do a bunch of stuff like that. But now because of our rotation, because of how many people that we get, we can't do any of that.
Thank God we get
Yeah.
a lot of people and our restaurant's busy because I really like the
You have hit that
system.
heater 6 times.
I like the
That
system where our managers like leave us alone for the most part and just let us do our job.
It didn't used to be that way.
Thank God it changed.
Yeah, we micromanaging was a thing, and there
I
was
think it
several
was
times.
universal across all restaurants
Yeah.
around that time because I started in 07 at Red Robin
Yeah.
and they were up my fucking ass. And I couldn't do it anymore. You know, I was a host most of the time. At the Garden Grove Red Robin, you know how they have the double doors?
Yeah.
I had to stand there and hold open the inside door with my foot and reach over and hold the second door open with my arm and stay like this for every single guest that
Oh
walked
my
in if I was the
God.
only host at the front. If there were two of us, then it was fine. We both had each door. But, like, if I saw someone coming out, I had to, like, run to the door to open it for them and be like, thank you, have a good day. They don't do that shit anymore. I still go there. The hosts don't even get up to go to the door. They just wait till you walk up to them. Like, it's the whole restaurant industry has changed.
Up in
Restaurant
up in
industry
Oregon.
has become much more casual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Up in
very much
Oregon,
so.
I used to have to be in Oregon in December. Gets pretty freaking cold. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure.
compared to California, I mean,
Yes.
it gets cold.
Comparatively,
Yeah, comparatively. I mean, it got down to at one point. I guess it got down to like 26.
Yeah.
Like that was
enough
cold.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
cold enough to snow.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I remember one time they asked me to stand outside of the Cheesecake Factory in the cold, so open up doors for the guests that were coming in. And I was in my Pico, and I remember I was just standing there, just waiting for people to come in for hours.
Oh, my God.
4 hours. But I mean, it's work. It is what it is. Like, you do it, you strive for it, you make money, and then you fucking go home. It's not a complaint. It's just an interesting way that the model is. Yet again, like, it goes back to the whole thing. It's a numbers game. That's it. That's all it is, and it sucks. And I know that we should put more effort into it. And I know that we should put more humanitarianism into it, but it's not. It's a numbers
You
game.
really can't.
Going back to the whole thing with our break room.
Okay.
They spent maybe 2 bills to make everything kind of $200 to make everything look bright and squirrely, and everybody was pepped up.
Like, oh, this is so nice.
For $200, everybody was pepped up, and now you look at it, nobody cares. That was a small fix to a bigger problem.
Well, I think that's universal in like a bunch of different businesses and companies. Like every 5-6 years, you throw your employees a bone, a very small bone that's inexpensive. Get them excited, and it holds them off for another 5 years.
Yeah, well ahead of the times.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. I mean,
I still would have that small bone than nothing at all, though.
yeah.
That's a good point.
That's
That is a very.
No, I wouldn't. I would
do
not.
like the small bone.
I want it. Everybody does, and that's another reason why it continues.
But compared
but that's another reason why it continues, because of that small bone. Because everyone's
no bone.
everyone's okay with just that.
Now, because I was gone for a moment, I want to recognize that your 2 points are widely recognized. Ivan's point is sharply recognized in one regard. Now, if I may jump off to one point to come back to our own.
Yeah.
In social media, social justice regards, my point, honestly, on both sides, I mean, social justice is represented by a hate group on the other side, let's be honest, okay?
Okay.
So, let's say that one very small minority of the total population makes a lot of noise that directs a lot of the culture in our society. We could all agree on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Yeah.
In every group. Now, let's say, for example, that only so many people are appeased by Brent's small move. In a specific example that we can all talk about in this circle, if I can just say for our viewers, listeners. Now, some people are immediately appeased. Others discern the wider issue, the deeper problem, and the repercussions later on through time. Okay? Some are appeased right now in this moment in time, and we recognize it, yet others are also recognizing what was done, what is happening, and what will happen further. Now, I keep bringing this point up to keep clarifying that there are some individuals who are seeing further through space and time to how things are and will be, and that our relation to that further space-time in the future is determining our discussions and actions now. I think Ivan and I are prime examples, if I may, in this podcast, also reference Jesse Imperial and Edson Venezuela as other individuals who also see further through space and time, who would also like to invite on the podcast. Edson Venezuela will also be appearing on the podcast at a later date within the week or next. You can expect him soon. But these individuals also see the same point. I'm not saying this is all of society. I'm saying that this is some part of society who is discerning these deeper points that some of us choose to or are just wired to by fate or circumstance to determine, or also determined as well as much circumstance by our genetics. I think that we're wired and determined by fate, geographics by fate, demographics, space and time, to determine how we all react to our moment right now. So I just wanted to point that out as something to kind of measure everyone's point of view.
So
that we're all determined by our space and time and where we're coming from.
So you acknowledge that you and Ivan feel the same way, and Caitlin and I seem to feel the same way.
It seems to be in this foursquare right here.
So maybe just for an exercise, I would like to propose: what do you two have in common that makes you feel this particular way? And then maybe we can talk about what we have.
Well,
That's a great
on
point.
what level do they have in common?
Well, because if it's being determined by our geography, by our genetics, by how we grew up,
we'll compare.
What is it about how you lived your life and how I made my life that makes us feel this way about this situation? And what is it about you two that makes you agree about this situation?
So let's compare.
That's a very good point.
So we should ask some questions about, maybe, like, how they grew up, where they grew up,
I would argue
like
right now that Ivan and I are actually very different people. And so this is very interesting that we agree on this point.
Yeah,
especially.
I'd be really curious because I feel like
That's
that would
a
be
really good point.
I don't agree with Band-Aids. I don't. I feel like they're short fixes.
He's like,
That's
we're diving in.
We're getting real right now.
I don't agree with Band-Aids.
You know what's so funny?
Yeah.
I just bought Band-Aids for the first time in like years because I'm like, we don't have any fucking Band-Aids. What kind of household is this?
I don't agree with Band-Aids. I really don't. Like it's.
But can you define that further? Because I want to see. I want to know.
All right, so
how that translates to
a Band-Aid for me is going to. Are we coming up on an hour?
In 1 minute.
Okay, so real quick, a Band-Aid for me is something a problem solver that is short term that will fix the problem now, but later on will just dissolve quickly, and it will just come back around and it'll just be the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what a Band-Aid for me is. I don't agree with it. I feel like a lot of business models take for it now, but it's coming up to a point where a lot more people are starting to recognize that it's a Band-Aid.
So we come back from our hour and we find out what a Band-Aid means to Devin.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
There we go. I like that. All right, let's just stop it right here and take a break, okay?
And then we compare.
All right. Let's see.
Caitlin and I are going to discuss why we don't believe in Band-Aid.
That's great.
No, I think it's really interesting. At least for me, I feel like because I understand the binary way that a company works without its like human aspect of it, and it goes into the whole fact of is it easier for you to know something and just let it go, or is it the fact that you know something and it doesn't really matter? It's still not gonna matter if you know something going into it. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that.
So it's easier for me to understand something and then go into it and be like, oh, I get why this is it. So it's easier for me to just kind of be like, okay, it is what it is. Versus if I don't know something and I go into it, I'm angry at it goes back to the whole surprise thing. I don't like being surprised by something that could be avoided, me knowing it. I don't like being surprised by bad news. That's
a good point.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm guessing nobody does.
No,
know?
I don't think so. Yeah.
So.
But it's like inevitable. It happens once in a while.
It does. That's very true. It does. But at the same time, there's a lot of situations in which you can circumvent that. Where you can, where you can learn yourself, where you can go out of your way to do the research and to understand the situation, understand where you're. And that's another reason why I'm okay where I'm at. I have no ill will whatsoever in where I work, and I can say that with a fact.
Yeah.
Because I know that they're a non-humanitarian company posing to be a humanitarian company, putting me through the ringer so that I can make the money so that they can pretend to say, hey, you're important to me. I get that. I understand that. That is their model. That is what they're going to do. And I get that. And I understand that they're lying to me. I understand that they're going to go out of their way so that they can make more money off of me, so that at one point, if I do whatever that they seem not willing or not fit to be done, so then they can fire me.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, hey, you know what? We're cool. Thank you very much. Have a good day. There's another guy coming in, for the next day. I know that. But at the same time, I understand that. And I understand that I give the best of my ability to what I am doing, which is my own personal work.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end of it all, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I
recognize that.
And I love, and going back to the whole thing, I love people. I love being able to talk to them. I love being able to come up to a table and feel their energy and if two couples are fighting or they're ever right there, I'm like sitting, I was like, holy shit, this is completely. I love going up to a table and not knowing what I'm going to get emotionally. And then emotionally, and
we
then
get a lot of emotion.
yes, and then you get to that table, and then my personal favorite tables are the most difficult. And I know it's
are crazy.
I know. I'm
crazy.
I am. What is that
They
word?
make for good stories later.
They do, but what is that word where you're like where you love pain? What is that?
Oh, you're a
masochist.
sodomist?
I'm a masochist. I'm a masochist when it comes to those
You
tables
love the
because
pain like a crazy person.
because I will go up to a table and the moment they're like, and I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't know. I am going a million miles a second. I was like, and then I bring it out to them, and their face when they light up, and I did everything. Oh God, it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy because I was like, lady, you were gonna fuck my shit up. You were gonna ruin my day, but I turned it around and I gave it right back to you, and you can't say nothing.
Well, that just
can't say anything.
All of that just goes right back to
love
what we were
that.
talking about earlier about how people who can overcome struggle get such a sense of accomplishment that it makes them like, oh, I am not going to let you and all your picky things that you want in your life to affect me. Not only am I going to meet that, I'm going to go over it.
I'm going to go over it and beyond and just make you so fucking happy.
That's why I work the service industry, is because of those moments. Because you can have a person come in and I will go like there was one point, and this was one time where I really I was like, holy shit, I've gone maybe a little too far. I went a little too far on this one. It was a little girl, and I'm a sucker for kids when they come into Cheesecake Factory. I really am. Like,
they're cute. Come on.
And it's not just that. They just came from Disneyland, so everything is magic to them. And I'm like, I don't know, it's something in my soul. I'm like, I'm the fucking cowardly lion when it comes to little kids. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, please don't break. This little girl, she had asked for Pepsi because she wanted Pepsi.
Oh.
And we're a Coke company.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the California Pizza Kitchen across the way, and I grabbed her Pepsi.
Oh my god!
And I brought it back to her. I fucking filled it up. I was like, look, I'm from the other place. They just want Pepsi. Can I have some? And they filled it up, and I brought it back to her. I was like, here's your Pepsi. And I was like, I went too far. I've never done that before, but it's like,
what if she needed a refill?
I know.
That's my first thought.
I told her, and I did. I thought about this. I told her, I was like,
seriously?
No, I told her about that. I was like,
Yeah.
I can only get you one of this, but this is yours. That's what I said to her. I can only give you one, but this is yours. And she drank her Pepsi, and it was a fun time, and it was great. But at that point, I realized, I will go above and beyond a table if I feel you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I get my joy from it. And most of the time, I don't feel like I'm working. I really don't.
Good.
Yeah,
That's so great. That's the best thing.
And here's the thing. I really don't care about that.
That's great.
I don't care about the numbers.
That's
good. I don't look at my numbers. I don't look at my sales throughout the whole shift. I hate doing that because it's a roller coaster. I don't count up my tips at all. Whatever I get at the end of the night, I get at the end of the night. The only thing that matters to me when I go in is if I make somebody smile. Every single table, I have to make at least one person smile. Doesn't matter how I do it. It just needs to be I just need to see a smile. That's what I don't know why. And here's the thing. It's I'm not trying to be I'm fucking holier than thou or anything like that. I don't know why it's so okay for me to just be I just made you smile. It's cool. Go on, little booty.
I would like to try and interject to explain why. And it's because of this, we did this icebreaker event when we were doing our training. And so what our team leader did, he was basically like, hey, all right, guys, we're all going to go to Vegas. All right, we're going to go to Vegas together. And there's 2 ways you can go. You can either take the bus, and it'll be like drinks, music, party on the bus on your way to Vegas. But it's going to take you 6 hours to get there. Or you can hop on a plane. It'll take you 1 hour to get there, and you'll be in Vegas, and you can start doing things right away once you get there. Everyone made their decision and got into whatever vehicle they wanted to do. And part of the thing that we talked about was that some people who like to take the bus, you're a relational person. You like to enjoy the journey. You like to facilitate every aspect of just connecting with people, enjoying the path as you go. Me, I'm very like, I want to get to Vegas as soon as possible and start enjoying my time in Vegas. I'll hop on the plane. I'm a very task-oriented person. I want to get there. I don't want to worry about the hassle. I just want to be there and enjoy my time. When I worked at Cheesecake Factory, the ways that I felt like I brought joy to my tables was by being that way. And like, if I can provide the perfect serving experience for my guest, that's what's going to make them happy. That's what's going to bring their smile to their face. Knowing they didn't have to worry about whether or not they were going to have balsamic when their salad came out. Or knowing that they needed ranch with their french fries when their french fries came out. That they were going to have to wait 20 minutes after they had their dessert to get their check if they wanted to leave right away. That was my way of providing that smile to my guests. But that's what's different. You like providing your smile to your guests in a different way.
Yeah.
We all have an important factor in how we serve and how it affects our decision making while we're serving. And I think we all need to think about a goal in our heads during every shift, because otherwise you go crazy. Like doing a serving job. Like, you need to have some sort of goal with you at all times, no matter how small or how big the goal is.
And here's the thing: it's like we've talked about serving, and I know that we've probably bored everybody with our serving story.
That's this podcast is about. My God,
and jumping in and talking about the people that we work with and all this other stuff. But all of this, every single bit of it, correlates to everyday life. Everyday life. I live my life trying to make people, like a person, smile when I encounter them. Having a conversation or having something going on, and that's how I live my life. That makes me happy to connect to a person and be able to say, hey, I know you after the 15 minutes that we just talked. Or just being able to be like, hey, you're just a really good person. Or acknowledging, oh, you don't want that. Like that, learning how to be a server. And what was the first conversation we had is like, everyone should be a server. Taught me that. Taught me to be a better human being on an outside point of view. To be able to deal with people on a day-to-day basis and be like, hey, you know what? You're just part of the human conditions.
It opens you up to a whole world of people you would not otherwise experience.
And so, if I may bring that about to the fact that between the 4 of us, we're actually very much more qualified than a whole bunch of people in society. My part in for posterity, but I think we're all qualified here to talk about a whole bunch of many segments of all society. Especially because we worked at Disneyland Anaheim Cheesecake.
Yeah.
That sees actually a greater portion of Americana per slice.
Oh, the Americana.
If you think about it.
The Americana like viewpoint.
Well, let's say that we see more of America than actually any Cheesecake Factory Incorporated. I would argue that fact as a point of fact.
Which is ironic.
If I may say.
Yeah, we see people coming in from other countries.
Exactly my point. Exactly. We're
Isn't that crazy?
Exactly.
You can say that with McCormick and Smith. You can say that with P.F. Chang's. Like any corporation that is within the, I don't know, what do you say, 5-mile radius of Disneyland, will be able to understand this phenomenon, because it is a phenomenon. Is to truly understand the world. It's not just America, it's the world. You get people from Japan, you get people from the Middle Eastern, you get people from Australia, you get people from the UK, you get all sorts of people from all over the world, and it is not just learning how to be American, but it's learning how to be worldly.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
It's a very interesting experience to be where we're at. And so I say we're very much qualified to talk about human beings in general, and their, at least from our regard, from a service regard, where we see a lot of different segments of society just dining at our establishment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, speaking about human beings in general, that we're able to kind of discern all these segments of society that probably don't discern each other in the same way that we discern them.
Yeah.
So we're more qualified to really talk about human beings in general. And that's not to dismiss society, that's just to say that we probably have much more to say about all of us in total, to be honest.
Yes. I think that
and that's not to demean society. I want to
some
argue
sort
that.
of viewpoint.
Opinions,
We have
but at the same time, we still understand our opinions may not necessarily be the correct ones.
That's, I think, but to be honest about that fact is to say much more about every group of society. Like, I would say, I mean, does anyone here subscribe to any societal genre, to be honest? I mean, does anyone here, honestly?
societal genre, like, are you talking like media
Are,
wise?
like, are you a part of any society? Pardon me. I'm sorry.
He's getting to the point.
I laugh. I can't laugh.
Do we subscribe? Do
Sorry.
we equate ourselves
Are
to?
you a jock? Are you a
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Are you
Yeah.
a bachelorette? Are
Any
you a
like
bachelor?
any of this?
Are
Are you
a
any
Jersey
society
Shore, like
it's,
aficionado?
If we're like a
No.
class, if we're like a type of what would you call it?
This is probably something we should do in a circle, though, because I don't
Yeah.
like. What would you say that Ivan could fit into stereotypically?
Oh, like what? Like your point of view of what I think, and then going
Yeah,
around in a
because
circle.
we all know
Yes,
what we're-
there you
yeah.
go. Let's.
So we're
do that.
stereotyping each other and then
Yeah.
revealing what we
Let's
actually
do
are.
Yes.
it. Yeah, let's.
Okay, what do you?
Okay,
All right.
let's
So
exercise
what do
as
you
friends.
think? What do you think that what type of societal class do you think that I would fit in?
if I just met you right now.
Correct.
Yes.
Like, just look at him, say hi, how are you, good, how are you, and then what would you think?
I would probably, if I was thinking an ethnic background, either Hispanic or Middle Eastern.
Oh, I always get that. I love it.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
my back, huh?
So now,
All
Ivan,
right.
what would you
All
say
right.
of Caitlin?
Like, class-wise, obviously, I mean, you would be totally American. But I would see, just from your clothes, just from what I just see, just perceivably, maybe some sort of, I don't know, like pseudo gypsy or a little bit more like hippie-esque. I know that there's not hipster. I wouldn't. No. I wouldn't
Yeah.
consider you a hipster. Just a little bit more freewheeling, if you may.
Okay, yeah.
So that's how I would.
I'm just
That's how I
listening,
would
yeah.
perceive you. There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
So we got Gypsy Caitlin. All
Okay.
right. Lay it on me. What do you think?
I would think you're very book smart.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would
All
think
right.
that you're very intelligent.
Okay.
You're worldly, you're learned. I would think you're very nice. Just a European mutt, all white family.
That's
like
all correct.
like no
Okay.
color anywhere yet.
Okay.
Maybe this
Okay.
generation.
I mean, that's fair because having that is also like, what if I did have Latin parents? That's a very interesting thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. If I was gonna try and stereotype Devin, let's see. I just purely based on the hat, I'd be like, this guy's hipster. He probably drinks at the finest coffee houses in town.
Has rings made
a
by
little bit.
local artists.
Yes. But he also could get a little kinky because I can see your tattoos, and I know that you've got some anime ink, and
Yeah.
you would probably be a little bit more in the...
Just like gradually.
I'm sorry. I know, I love you.
It's all true. No.
But yeah, no, I could see you get little. I could see you being like a kinky hipster.
Ooh, girl.
There you go.
Yeah.
Get those pinky boots in.
I never put my feet in the Silver Lake kind of curry there when I lived in LA. I was in Los Feliz when I was in LA. That's a very lively area. Korean town was a fun area to be in.
But see how interesting that was. Like, even though we all know each other, even though we all have spent time working together and feel like we know each other pretty well, there are still some things that you said about me that I'm like, oh, I never would have thought that I came off that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally get what you're saying. I want to say right now, guys, and I'm going to put this right now for viewers, because this will probably be looked at future dates long from now. I'm already writing a show that's 5 seasons in depth. It's already interspaced by major interactions. That's in fact, determined by real events in time. This is based on my 5 years in Cheesecake Factory from 2013 till 2018 at least, till the present time. It's intended to be 5 seasons deep. I'm already about half season in, but the entirety of the show is already spanned out in what has to start and then end for the entire show.
Got it.
But it's in fact determined, if I may say it right now, Ivan, as well as Robin, as well as Caitlin, actually appearing as characters in this said show.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And this is in part to be a comedic drama on the same level as, say, Parks and Rec.
Or The Office.
Or as The Office, say, as an example.
That'd be so
To
cool.
be kind of a little more in-depth, a little more comedic at the determinations of fate and the work environment. And at the same time to reflect the inspiration of, at least in SoCal America and LA, as a inspirational cultural center, heartbeat of America, a kind of widespread cultural phenomenon of Americana itself. Transit. I intend that to be the title of the show. The intent of the show is to determine kind of the experience of transit itself to all aspects of life, kind of to say that stasis is never actually affected in life in Americana or the modern world itself, that all life now is in motion. My own part of me Instagram page leads to Pacific Define, which is to say life in motion. It's to say that all life now is constantly moving in all time, space, time. I really bring that up to point to say that time itself is kind of ongoing, and I think we're kind of always ignorant to that fact. And
we should be aware of where we are right now, so that we can be better for where we are going to be in the future.
Yes. Thank you for picking that up. Too much Jameson's. Pardon me.
Jameson's.
My tongue is getting tied. No, that's kind of what I'm getting to. And I think if we're all kind of a little more recognizant of that fact, then we're going to be able to help ourselves kind of achieve a higher state. And as I was saying, because we're all in the service industry together, particularly at this particular Cheesecake Factory or having had time there, we're going to be able to kind of help each other recognize that fact and achieve a higher state thereof. And I want to say that we have not exactly like a higher, better, more like higher moral state. I'm just saying that like we have a better place to kind of like discuss this fact.
We have a more experienced perspective.
Yes, I want to say that. I don't want to say like we're a higher judge, like I don't want to say that. Like we're not some sort of like biblical higher power.
Right, yeah.
No,
It's not
I
to say
wouldn't
that
say that.
our opinions are more correct than others.
It's just a
Just
perspective.
that we have more experience than
Yes.
most in having the broad perspective that we do because of what we experience on a daily
Exactly.
basis. Yeah.
That's what I want to get to.
No, I don't think anyone in our industry can ever. I should never say never, but I think there's very few people who feel that because they do what they do makes them more right at it.
I think because the fact that society interacts at various levels of hierarchies, and I think that's really interesting because at this time in society that I feel there's a very big like jump between left and right now.
Oh, huge.
All right, so like there's some perspectives which are like hard left where it's like communal based.
Mm-hmm.
There's some perspectives which are like hard right, which are like straight up hierarchical based, and people are just like happy with that. But like, I think society is naturally is honestly hierarchical based, and it just works out that people kind of naturally fall into that for one thing. And that when you force people into a communal based system, like I feel like people are just wired to just throw a wrench into that.
Really?
Unfortunately, I think yes.
Okay.
Because of how human beings are naturally wired.
Do you think people are naturally wired to want to rebel against the system? Whatever it may be.
Yeah, because I honestly want to say that no matter
Wait,
what.
the biggest thing, you don't feel that way?
Whoa! No!
The biggest thing, you don't feel that way?
You're notching your relationship. Here we go.
That's not bad.
I will propose my little nugget of story, if you will, but I want you to finish saying what you're saying first.
Brownie me, real quick.
Brownie. Oh, we need some brownies.
I need comfort.
Well, I'm sorry. I made that one comment. I was like, I need to eat my feelings. Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm going to do one of those for sure.
I want one of those too. That's
Yep,
a good
Yep.
that's-
Cheat day.
Yeah, this is a cheat day.
It's all
This is a
good.
cheat day.
Maybe for you guys.
Oh,
Thank you.
fuck, these are good.
Really appreciate you. Thank
Wow.
you for baking.
Is this dark chocolate or is this
Milk chocolate.
No. Okay, cool.
That's
Oh, it's all crumbly. It's good.
I would have done dark, but I'm like, nah, I'll spoil myself and do milk.
Alright, sorry, Devin. So please continue.
Where were we? We were talking about.
Or you were talking about the people's natural desire to throw wrenches into the system, no matter what it may be.
Okay. So here's my perspective on all humanity, just real quick, and I think it sets up probably the rest of our conversation for the next segment at least. Is that no, on a modest level. I mean, I'm not trying to be.
No, it's not you.
I want to say right now, I'm not trying to be.
It wasn't you. It was Ivan has kicked this heater like
A
10
million times.
Oh no! I didn't know what's going on.
We're having an inside war with me and the heater, and it's a thing.
What happened? What am I angry now?
He's doing it like 7 times.
Poor Devin is trying
Have
to
you not
explain
noticed?
himself. We start laughing because we see what's happening under the table, and poor Devin's trying to have a train of thought. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It is not you. It is 100% Ivan and his giant feet. I love you, but you have giant feet.
Pardon, viewers. It's going to come to me in a second. Give me a moment.
You want to take a pause there, buddy?
Pardon me. That was an extraordinary exchange. I'm going to laugh real bad in a moment.
Oh, let it out. I ugly cry laugh like
You
all
have
the time.
to.
Don't worry about it.
Cry laugh.
Like my face is scrunched up and I'm crying and it looks like I'm violently crying.
Mm.
I'm
Are
really
you
violently
are you one of those people
Oh my
when
goodness.
you cry when you laugh really hard you
Oh.
start crying?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know those people who cry who like laugh so hard they snort?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yes,
Yeah.
I dated someone like
Those
that
are
for
my
5 years.
favorite.
Oh, you
people.
love
Oh,
that?
yes.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
good. That's
My
the best.
sister is like that, and I scared the shit out of her so bad one time that she screamed laughed for 5 minutes, and then snorted for another 3.
Yeah.
And it was the most crazy development of emotions that I've ever seen in a human being.
Oh, the snort.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love
yeah. You know, I thought it was funny if I snort. And, like, the guys on my podcast, like, they always try to get me to laugh so
you got
hard
that little eyeball thing.
Always their goal. And
Oh,
when
my
I do,
goodness.
like,
There
they
you go.
bust up
I
laughing.
know.
Okay.
Ah!
So that's how I know
This is gonna be a good one.
If I could
Yeah,
keep
that's
it
gonna be a
snort,
good one.
I know I've done it.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh, God.
All right. Well.
Oh,
All
okay.
back
Good.
to
Let's
you
let's circle back to it. What were we just discussing? just so we can.
Well, you were finishing up your point before Ivan was throwing me the death stare about my little story. So
Yeah, and then we just, like,
Same,
really awkwardly ignored it. And then
same people.
I know
moved on.
that's what's so great.
Wait.
about this group,
Okay.
though, is
Let me
we
bring back. I think
Yeah.
I initially discussed where human beings fall on a wide, broad spectrum. Now, if I may,
Mhm.
so we can come back. I think to probably Kate's own perspective,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
then as a relationship, your own different perspectives as a joint perspective.
It's
Okay, so no, if I may, like,
it's not a negative.
let's
thing.
no. So if I may, I'm gonna make my point as a broad perspective,
Okay.
and then I'll give each of you a broad point to respond to. Now, if I may, before I jump into my point,
Mhm.
do we need drinks?
We always
Making
need drinks.
Yeah,
But
I'm
we
gonna do this kombucha thing.
Okay,
This lemon orchard flying embers
Okay.
kombucha.
all right.
Kombucha.
That is a shameless plug, sir.
Where's your banjo?
Kombucha.
Woo!
Okay.
Wait. Whatever is in there, pour it in this guy. Pour it in this guy. There you go.
Here.
You want whiskey?
Oh my
I think I need more of that,
Give me some-
actually.
give me some
Alright.
cup. Give me
Oh
your
wait,
cup.
I think you have one that's.
Yes, you did.
Did we
No,
go
that's
through
it.
3? All right.
Dude, yeah, I got one more. One more.
Okay. This is what 3 years of bartending taught me to do, was to pour alcohol back and forth between 2 glasses to make it even.
And then just a little here.
Here, let me have a Sprite to give it a little twist
There
there.
we go. All right. So anyway, I'm actually really hoping we never come back to this subject. Because I
No.
really don't want-
Okay,
let
we
me
can move on. We can move
I
on.
really don't want to be thrown on the coals. Like I feel like
No, it's not going to be thrown on the coals. So the topic is that what he was saying was that people have a tendency to like to put a wrench in the system, and I feel like you're opposed to that. I feel like you don't believe in that, and I want to know your opinion on it.
Okay.
So
Okay,
okay,
let me
before
start-
we jump into
Yeah.
all of both Ivan's, well, Ivan has a viewpoint on your point. You probably have a viewpoint of your own.
I have a story.
And so I think we
Yeah.
probably have a point on this point in general. So if I may, I'll make my point in that I think because I kind of have reached so many varying points in my development in life, recognizing all other points, continually developing myself, I eventually, at 30, developed myself, and then kind of, in realizing myself, was able to kind of then look on the rest of the world, honestly, I think for the first time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, I recognized that all other people were kind of either owing to some sort of tribe or some sort of belonging in their own self before kind of finding themselves. So I think we all very much get caught up in our own realities before we realize ourselves
I can
in
agree.
society.
I agree with that
You
too.
know? I think
Because I mean, yeah, you don't know who you are until you're thrown in a situation where
Mhm.
you're different.
yeah. And so very much I think that we find a lot of different perspectives that kind of come at life. And that determines everything else thereafter. And that honestly, if we're fortunate to end up in a service job, and each of us has been at Cheesecake Factory Anaheim, and determined by very much exactly where that is. Again, Cheesecake Factory Anaheim, where we get a really interesting kind of slice of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a really interesting perspective at life. Now, owing to that, I want to set that up to discuss the following discussion because I recognize we all have a differing point. Okay? So I know everyone is about to jump in. So I was trying to set that up to kind of state that we have a really good point, I would argue, to state the things we're probably about to say.
Okay.
Because this is going to be digested by a lot of different people.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to set this up that, like, we're just 4 people working at one location, but we see a lot of different people.
Yeah.
A lot of different people are going to go ahead and listen to this and watch us.
Yeah.
And they could 100% disagree with everything that we say.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's
going to be different than ours.
exactly. So I'm trying to host this. I'm trying to set this up so because I've argued a little bit of what I'm trying to get at as a broad perspective that we each have probably a genetically wired disposition and a fate determined disposition to end up at our viewpoints, but that space-time and specific to our fate
I gotta pause you on that one. Like, you're saying genetically. Genetically, we have a disposition, and I completely and utterly disagree with that. I feel like it's all about the nurture part of the way that we are.
Well,
Our disposition can, in a very small part, come genetically, but it's all nurture. It's all about the environment in which we're at, where we're at. Like, that's what is going to define us. Say, for example, that you have a dad or a granddad who is more prone to be angry, right? But you were raised by your mother who is going to be more calm and collective and not very angry and look at things at a different point of view. You're going to be more disposed to be that type of person than you are going to be genetically an angrier person. Do you see what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So I feel like it is about our nurture. It is about the environment in which we're in that defines who we are. Wherever we're at. We were talking about geography. We were talking about where we are and how that defines us and why the reasons we are where we're at. Okay, that's what I can get. But when somebody says that genetically I'm going to be this way because unless it's something biological, because that's what's implied with.
Maybe the better question is to say, what factors do you think are genetically inherent?
Are you
Like,
talking? Are you talking about emotions? Are you talking about my mental state? Or are you talking about something that's going to be more biological versus like if my family lineage is more prone to heart attacks, I'm going to be prone to heart attacks, so I should take care of that. Versus my grandfather was just an asshole, so am I going to be an asshole?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. It seems like it is, in part, fate determined.
What is that? But what does that mean? Like, could you,
if I may, I can't speak for every family in America at all, but I can give you some perspective about, say, if we were to say there's a golden age in America in the immediate, say, century. Most people reflect on, say, the 50s. If you talk to our current president, Mr. President Trump, he'll say that he's a 50s guy. My own father is a 50s guy. He's a baby boomer. Baby boomer. Only about 25% of the American public was actually part of that 50s, picturesque America. Okay, that's a actually small minority of the total population. Okay, everyone else suffered for that smaller segment of society.
But do you feel like we're being subjugated to that, to the 1950s right now? I feel like the majority of the population right now.
I think it's expanded to a wide degree. I think that like the urban poor is the minority today.
Not to belittle what you're trying to say, but the question was how, when you say that we're genetically No.
Disposition.
Yeah,
in
when
different
we're
portions of
not when we're
society.
genetically disposed to a certain behavior, where is the line between what we are like more prone to heart attacks versus more prone to drinking? Would you say that's a genetic thing, or would you say that's an environmental thing?
I would say that alcoholism is a disease,
I think
and
two
that's a
different things.
genetic thing.
I think nature and nurture are just so closely intertwined that sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the two. Something that logically you would think would be nurture could just as easily be nature.
And then it's really just a matter of perspective at the end.
It is, and that's why they're always said together, nature versus nurture.
Yeah,
One
but
can-
it's
one-
Would we agree on it?
but it's versus.
Between the four of us,
That's,
could we
I
agree
know,
on
but-
both?
that's the one key term. It's
we
versus.
agree
It's
it's
like
both?
no, but see, here's the thing, and that's the reason
Opposites
why.
can still be inclusive.
Yes, but
Yes.
then yes, that's true. You can
When you
have
opposites,
both
one can't
opposites.
exist without the other.
You can have a person who is more prone to heart attacks, but their environment makes them more angry. We're going to that. Yes, you can have
Could we?
both.
Because
both
there's a
terms.
variance. What would you say
Yes.
that? There's a variance, maybe.
I feel like alcoholism is going to be inherently a disease, which is prone to be genetic. I
Okay.
believe that.
In certain groups, like
historically,
Native Americans.
Historically, I believe that if a person is more prone mentally to have an addiction, because that is a mental disease, is going to be something that is going to be transferred to their children. I believe that.
But would that not be considered an environmental thing?
Because they
It
grow
could-
up
let's
with
say-
an alcoholic parent.
let's
No,
say-
that's
how do
that's
we
that's
know?
very that's very
Let's
true.
say, for example, that I'm an alcoholic and I choose to have a child, and I give up my child at birth, and that child goes to a completely different family, Mormon family, no alcohol involved. Are they still equally as prone to becoming an alcoholic because I was?
If
an
they ever,
alcoholic?
if they're ever, they're more prone to have that addiction, that addictive nature in whichever way, shape, or form.
Because it's a genetic thing.
Just addiction.
So
It
then
does.
you two agree.
It's
Okay.
addiction.
Okay, that's
Addiction in itself. So you can have a Mormon family. The child can live whatever and stuff, and then at one point that person is going to be touched by something. It can be gambling.
Right. And
Yeah.
they get one taste.
They get one
Of
taste,
just
they get one
anything
something, and then they're
addicting.
more
Okay.
prone to be
So then
more
correct me if
facilitated
I'm
on
wrong,
something.
It seems like you two are on the same. You're both on the same understanding. as
Yeah.
that. When
Yes.
you say something that's genetically inherent, it's something that you're more prone to because of your parents. No
Yeah,
matter where they may be.
Hmm.
but the way that we are right now, just our emotions, just the way that we view the world, that's all nurture. That's all nurture. Because it takes one person to teach you something when we're talking about stories.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It takes one person to tell you a story to change the way that you look at something. And stories
Absolutely.
and stories are everything. History and stories and the way that we view the world and the way that somebody tells us something, the way that it touches us, it changes our viewpoint. My viewpoint on death was changed because of the Golden Compass.
Oh,
That's interesting.
My viewpoint
I
on
have to watch
death.
that now.
Well, no, not the
book.
book series.
I have to read that now.
I
have to read that
have.
now.
You can borrow them if you want.
But
Yeah.
see, I have read those same books, and while it didn't change my perspective on death, it changed my perspective on love.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, but it's
But it's all a matter of like
hindsight.
what you-
That's so sweet
Hindsight
that
is
it came
2020.
from,
Yeah,
Mhm.
like, you are two different people that read the same exact book series, and you identified with each something important, but they were both different.
that was
Yeah.
me trying books again.
Oh yeah, I do audiobooks. I do. I
Audiobooks,
like
yeah.
to read too, but I also like audiobooks.
It's so hard for me to read, and I wish I could
But see,
read
that's
more.
something that he and I share is that he and I both have difficulty reading in our own way. Like he's ESL and dyslexic. I'm super dyslexic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, reading a book takes me like even in high school, it took me a very, very long time to read
Yeah.
books, which is why I love audiobooks. But still, it
My
takes
boyfriend
a
the same
long
way.
time.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to read a book.
Being
Yeah.
being ESL and slightly dyslexic sucks. It really does.
I actually prefer to read because I don't have any issues like that. Like I read like I would say just normal, not above average, not average, just normal. I have a friend who like speed reads and like she can finish a book in a day.
I don't understand that.
I've
I've seen that before. I don't get that. I was like, you just finished that book? I was like, it took me like 2 weeks to just get to chapter 1.
Unless it's a short book, I can't do that. Yeah.
When I'm really set on what it is.
Oh yes, of course.
Punch,
me too.
Punch through anything. It's weird because like I already know that I'll for whatever reason I can't say what it is, but something fucks me up where like I can't make myself go fast on certain books, and some books I can like destroy in a day. It's weird.
See, that's
some
when
things
I read
trigger me where
One,
I can jump through like my eyes just like interpret some information just
I feel
at such a pace that it's whatever it is what's drawing me further. Like I don't know, it's I'm not sure if it's exactly the information or if exactly the narrative of the information that's doing it, but something right in between
it's because you're able to retain that information. Like it goes back
you're more
to the
interested.
First conversation. Information was not readily available for me, so information is very hard for me in order to grasp.
Mm-hmm.
So when like books and stuff like that, like I'll read something and all of a sudden I'll realize, oh shit, I read something, I didn't even grasp anything, so I have to go back to the top and read it again and like really sit down and pay attention, because I'll read 2 pages and not get anything. Like it'll just sieve through my mind. And I was like, I get to the end, I was like, what the fuck did I just read? And I was like, fuck, okay, fine. So go back to the top and then just go right there.
Oh, yeah. It happens to all of us.
I hate that. I hate that so much. And then, like I was saying, it's information for me is so hard to find. Not to, like, I can look at TV and fucking, like, fall into it. Watching commercials is my jam. I love commercials. I will, like, you know, I love commercials. But it's because of that. It's like, that's what I grew up with. I grew up with TV. So.
Well, I would like to completely sidewind because I still have my story from that first comment that you made about people throwing wrenches in the system.
Yes, please. Let's get back to that.
It was a while ago.
I know, it was a while ago. I apologize, but
it's fine.
It's still at the precipice of my mind, and it's something that I watched that I found to be perspective changing. So I want to tell you about it. Just want to know if I'm making a bigger deal out of it, which is totally possible. But it was a documentary that I was watching about in Denmark. And in Denmark, they have these big hangar-style housing communities. And where everyone who lives in the home has their own room. They have a shared living room. They have a shared family room and a shared kitchen. And like everything is shared. It's like a one long living space. And then everyone, all the kids, all the moms, all the dads, the next family, and about 7 families will live in this one hangar big style home. Mm-hmm. Outside on either end, they have a play area on one side, and they have like a garden where they make their own vegetables and their own food supply source outside. This is in an area of the world that has the happiest humans. Like the happiest people are reported from being in this part of the world. And it's, like I said, about 7 families all living together. All of the moms treat all of the kids like they're their kids. Oh. All of the dads treat all of the kids like they're that kid's dads. Mm-hmm. All of the children respect all of the parents like that's their parent. Oh. They all have chores, they all have responsibilities, and they all share the group responsibilities of maintaining a house of this big.
So they're basically keeping tribe.
Basically, yeah.
So in a tribe, it's a huge tribe. And it keeps going back to the whole thing. We need to go back to tribes.
but see, this is the thing is like these people, and it was very like, hey, like it was super low key documentary. Like, hey, we want to get a video of what your everyday looks like, And everyone was like, yeah, I love it. Because, like, let's say you and I had 2 kids and we're living in this household. And we're like, you know what? We really need a fucking vacation from our kids. We could go take a week off.
Anytime.
We could go take a week off and trust that we have 6 other parents there to watch our kids while we're not home.
And
Like,
it's just
pretend-
everyday
Just
life.
pretend like you had that kind of trust. That's the tough part. Is imagining.
What's the trust with those people? But that's the thing. It's like
toughest part.
if
Yeah.
you're grown into that society where we don't have trust. I trust.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing that they
Oh
have
my
that
God,
It is-
trust
it's
is
beautiful. Yeah,
such a
great.
crazy
It's also
thing not to
beautiful.
have.
There are some sidewinds where it's like, well, why would you trust these people? You know, what do they do? But just be present. Why do you want your kids to have the same affection for someone who didn't birth them? Like, there's all these other things that go into it, which I fully acknowledge.
Okay.
But I feel like I'm a pretty normal, just kind of self-centered person. If I had 2 kids, I feel like knowing that I had 6 other people to lean on to give the same kind of discipline to my kids, because you can't watch your kids 100% of the time.
Yeah.
If I felt like I could truly have that kind of ability to lean on other people to discipline them or to teach them in a way that I would if I was there,
Yeah.
I would be a very happier, more relaxed person.
Oh,
But see, here's the problem with that. Okay, so you have those tribal communities.
Mhm.
You're talking about trust. The
Yeah.
moment that you have somebody else come into your tribal community, you become intolerant. It goes into the whole circle thing again.
Wait, why?
Why?
Because you're saying how does trust begin? Let's just talk about that.
Experience.
Trust begins with experience and time.
Yeah. Tribes and
Has that happened yet?
All right,
There we go.
we're
starting
right on,
again.
man.
Okay. So trust begins with experience and time. It
Mhm.
begins with understanding a person over a long period of time. I could say that I trust Devin because I've known him for X amount of time. I've seen how he works. I've seen how he does things. I've seen what he's about. I've seen how he's spoken to me and what I experienced from that, and I've learned to trust that person.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So say, for example, that a new person comes in and sits down. We're automatically up because we're open group. We're going to be like, hey, how are you? How you doing? And everything. But the moment that he would have said, hey, you know what? I actually need like $200. Would you be able to, kind of spot me? We would automatically, it would just be like, ding, why? Why do you need these things? Why do you whatever? Versus if he were to say, hey, I'm really in a bind. I would never ask you this. I need this amount of money.
What if a stranger came up and said those exact same words? What if a stranger?
That's what I was saying. It's like if a stranger came up to me and said something like that, I'd be like, why? What's the problem? Because you ask those questions so that you can automatically, immediately try to find some sort of trust in this person.
Then
Mhm.
would you take that risk?
No,
No.
I would not take that risk, and not
Okay.
and
Hang on. I want it. Devin, would you take that risk?
If
Honestly.
if a stranger came to me,
If a stranger came into a community and said, "Hey, I need to borrow $200 because of this thing. I know we don't know each other very well. I promise I will pay you back." Would you?
okay, that is the same question of any homeless person, for example,
Sure.
asking any individual working person in society for change, any denomination of change.
Mhm.
Honestly speaking, to be honest,
Mhm.
honestly, they're looking for anything when they ask. That's a panhandler for you. In my opinion, it's fair game to say, I'm sorry, I can't give you anything. I don't think that there's anything wrong in that. I think that you're justly paid for the work you do, and there's nothing I can really argue about them asking at the same time.
No, but we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
we're talking about the trust.
Yeah.
Would you
trust
so say
someone?
for example like a panhandler, would you trust that person to actually use that money to go and eat or actually get something that is not
Or
going to be
go out
good
and
for
buy
them?
more meth.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Pardon me. No. I wouldn't trust them at all.
And then goes to the same thing.
Okay, so then Caitlin, what do you think?
I I don't think I would try. I mean, I would have to kind of, like, as we were talking about earlier, being servers, we have to read people before, like, we know. But we know quickly who someone is, at least for the most part. We're human, we make
sense.
mistakes.
Yeah, we can sense the auras.
But
we can sense.
normally,
maybe
we can
maybe
sense
I could give an example. We pardon me. At one point, we all worked at Cheesecake Anaheim.
Yeah.
I know Ivan must have seen him. Maybe Caitlin too. I'm not sure. He's in my Urban Decay gallery. There's a gentleman in the Disney area of Anaheim who's in a wheelchair.
Oh, he blares his music?
Yeah,
and he had a parrot or something?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
he's like a military code.
Oh, I think I may have seen him once. I think I saw one guy with a parrot one time, and I'm like, what the fuck?
He zooms around with music, right?
Yeah.
He zooms around in the area, and what happens is the panhandlers in the ones you see regularly, they all collect and pay him to hit his weed pen.
Oh wow! Okay.
That's what I see happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I do transit enough that like I watch people
Yeah.
at the intersections, and that's what he has going on.
Which is interesting because like I would avert my eyes. If that sounds like fucked up, I'm really sorry, but like it's like when I see the homeless, sometimes I avert my eyes because I know that they're just trying to live, and sometimes they're doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing in order to live. And who am I to say like, no, you can't survive, you know? So I just kind of like, I'm so like for the rules, and I'm like, no, don't fuck up, don't do this in public or whatever. But I understand that they kind of have to sometimes. Yeah. So it's like I have to look away because I'm like trying to support them, but I'm also trying to support like doing the right thing too. So
here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have with and this is probably going to set off a lot of people. I have very little patience for homeless people. I don't. And one of the biggest things, the reason why I don't have a lot of patience or, just like viewpoint on homeless people is because I get off of the freeway and there's a homeless person and there's a person selling flowers right next to each other. And this person that's selling flowers probably lives in a tiny bedroom with 13 other people and gets up every single morning to go and grab some flowers wherever the fuck he's going to go and grab them. And he puts himself out there to sell flowers off the side of the freeway versus you have one person who has a sign that says, "I'm hungry, please give me something." There's a difference. There is a thing. There's a motivation, and I believe in motivation. Sure, I can say that person has whatever reason is he's where he's at. That's fine. Okay, that's good. I'm sorry. But at the same time, you look at the other person and you can say, you probably left your family wherever you came from to live in a shitty situation because I was there at one point and I understand that. And yet you still have the motivation, the sheer will to get up and go and do this, because it would be degrading to be out there with flowers trying to give people who are just trying to move along an opportunity to buy your things, to sell something to them. It's like, I am trying to work.
But it's also a possibility that the person who's selling the flowers, as opposed to the person who's homeless next to him, had more opportunities than the person who's homeless. We don't always know the situation.
We don't. Well, no, we don't. And well, let's talk about that. We don't know the situation on both sides. I get that. Let's just even it out. Mm-hmm. But to me, and it goes back to the whole nurture thing. And I know that I'm super jaded, which is one of the biggest things that I'm trying to get out of. I'm terribly, terribly jaded from where I am to where I want to be, but it's me encountering the world the way that I see it. Mm-hmm. see that they have the same opportunities. One person has the opportunity to actually be here and have all the fundamental like funding and government issued blah 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 than the other person.
Okay, so on that note, I'm going to come back to the school thing. Because if I'm a B student in a C school, I have the same opportunities as being a B student in A school. I still have the same ability to apply for scholarships. I still have the same ability to write an essay to try and apply for that grant as anyone else.
Okay.
So why should it, because I struggle a little bit more, my circumstance, mean that I have less ability to go where I want to go?
Because at that point, it's a personal choice. A person who is, regardless of whatever place in which they're at, there comes a point, say for example, that you have a person who comes from a project style background.
Sure.
Okay. They're going to make that personal choice to either persevere or say, fuck it, I'm going to continue being called loser.
Which is the same with anyone.
No. Yes, at any given point, yes. Even if you're in a rich family, if they keep calling you loser, you're going to be a loser because that's how you think of yourself.
Yeah.
Versus if you're versus if you're in these neighborhoods and everyone's telling you, hey, you know what, you are this way. Do you think that you're better than us? Blah blah blah, and all this other stuff. You can either say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to think of me. And I'm going to continue moving forward to myself. Or I'm going to be like, you know what? Yeah, who do I think that I am? You know, these people raised me. These people are, you know, my people. I'm going to be with my people.
Yeah.
We tend to try to stay within our circle.
Yes.
As we were talking. Versus you have a situation like this. Like an immigrant who comes to the country who has nothing. No opportunities because you have no paperwork. You can't say, hey, you know what? I need food stamps, or hey, I'm feeling bad. Can I have Medi-Cal? Or hey, you know what? You have no government program whatsoever to back you up. The only thing that you have is just your initiative to do something, your wits and your initiative to do something.
That's a really good point. So really, we're only limited by our own willpower to get what we want.
Yes, but see, but that's
no matter where you look.
Yes, that is very true. But then you have a homeless person who was probably born here, who probably has that same
zero willpower.
Who's zero willpower, zero initiative, bad decisions, but still has that opportunity. That's why yet again, one more time,
wasted opportunities.
One more time, I'm jaded.
Yeah. No,
okay, so
okay.
it's just the way that I see it. I say, like, if you realized the amount of things that you can get, or the amount of things that you can become, if you just had 1 ounce of willpower and initiative, versus this person who has a willpower and initiative who has no openings whatsoever.
And just
that's
for
the
record,
sad point of view.
For the record, you have had a much more of a struggle than most people in this country.
Here's the thing. It's all like my situation is moving along, so it's whatever. But
it's not, because you understand.
I'm jaded because I understand the situation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not. The jadedness comes from me trying to understand the human condition.
The jadedness comes from you trying to understand why you have to try harder, even though your willpower is higher, but because the bar is set higher because you were not born here.
But it doesn't. In the end of it all, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
No, it doesn't, because regardless of where I'm going to be or how I'm going to do it, I'm still going to become who I want to be. Versus somebody who has no willpower and no initiative, they want to become someone, but they're not pushing forward to become who they're going to be.
What do you think? Because I see him. He is living this situation. as an outside perspective, do you think that someone who is not born a citizen, who has to do the extra effort, should not be given more leeway because they have to overcome more?
I don't know. That's a tough question. Like
They
I've never thought about it.
I
That way.
disagree.
If you did not, okay, here's.
Wait.
No. Let me tell you. No,
No, we're listening to
no,
Dylan.
no. But here, that's
don't
another
know,
reason.
though.
That's the thing. It's like
I've never thought about
knowing
it
where
like
I
that.
am at and knowing how jaded I am, I still believe in immigration. I still believe that we should have tight immigration. I still believe that we should be able to look at a person and say, hey, you know what, whether or not you should be coming in. As like, that's kind of like the right side of me coming in. I do believe that there was a situation in this country in which there was a lot of immigrants that came in here that fucked up systems for the people that actually wanted to do something or actually change their
Yeah,
lives
but don't
instead
you
of doing
feel
right
like
there.
do you feel like that's just that you should get penalized for people that had nothing to do with your situation?
But that doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No, but it doesn't. And whether or not I feel just on it, whether or not I feel it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Because it doesn't change anything.
It doesn't. The only thing that I can
I see
do,
what you're saying.
the only thing that I can do is just change me. The only thing that I can do is just continue doing me and trying to better me. And then in the end of it all, like if there were to be a movement, or if there was to say, hey, you know what, let's do this
That would
way,
be the
then
same
yeah.
thing. Okay, tell me if I'm wrong. That would be like the same thing as me being like, oh, I see that. I'm going to go super extreme with this example.
Okay.
Super extreme. Just going to completely disclaim that. That would be the same thing as me being like a white, blue-eyed person in Germany saying, oh, Hitler is killing all the people I don't care about, so I'm not going to care about it.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
But see, here's the thing: like people did not know. First and foremost, people did not know
Fair
what
enough, fair
Hitler
enough.
was doing.
But I'm a person who knows and who's like, oh, well, it doesn't affect me, so I don't care.
So she's not going to do anything about it.
I'm not gonna do anything about
it. Okay, all right. I get it. I get it where you're coming from, but at the same time, it was either in Germany, either you knew what was going on or you didn't. And if you knew what was going on, you truly believe Hitler's
But
word,
you have,
and you went out of your way to do the things that Hitler wanted to do.
you have to
No,
admit,
no.
though, that what Robin said is a basic human response. To not care about something that has nothing to do with you is normal.
No,
It's
yes,
survival.
yes. Then yes, don't poke the bear if you don't need to.
Exactly.
Okay.
So but of course, like for us, it's more complicated than that. It's not just like a basic feeling, and I think that's going back to what I said earlier, where it doesn't matter what you think as long as you don't act on it. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you act on,
Yeah.
not what you think.
Yeah.
Because we all have dark thoughts. We all have things that we're not proud of thinking about, or feelings that we're not proud to feel. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong, or that, we should feel dirty about it. It's just how we act on it. And I know that sometimes doing nothing is just as big as being like on the wrong side.
Yeah.
But to accept that you're part of a group simply because you're being stereotyped into that group
Yeah.
and taking it as face value.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if someone were to look at me and be like, oh, you've got red hair and green eyes, you're Irish, you drink all the time and you behave this way, I'd be like, fuck you, you don't know me.
No. We're talking into stereotypes. And what did we
But
say
that's what
earlier when we were servers?
But
We
that's,
stereotype people because there's a reason to stereotype people.
but that's not what I'm saying.
So you're
What
talking about the individual, correct?
No, what I'm saying is that you can't agree with them when they stereotype you. If they were to look at me and say, oh, you drink all the time, you are this way, I'd be like, first off, I'd be like, fuck you, you don't know me.
You would stand up and do something.
Yeah,
about
I'd be like, 100% they're correct.
The-
But don't stereotype
I'd
them,
be like,
bitch.
but don't you tell me who I am.
Okay, so everybody has their own self-worth, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own viewpoint on how they look or how they do something. And if somebody tells you otherwise and you're going to say, fuck you, you're wrong.
Right, because it has to do with you.
Exactly.
Or even if
but
they're right,
but
they tell them
no,
the same
but
thing.
but those people like yes, at that point, if you're gonna, if anybody says anything about you whatsoever, and you have your own opinion on yourself, you're going to outwardly correct them.
Yeah.
A person who outwardly goes around and says, "Hey, you know what? This is just the way that you are. This is what's going on." If they don't know you correctly, if they're not there constantly to see how you are, you're going to be like, "You're just an ignorant asshole. You really don't know who I am." Those people truly are ignorant out because they don't know how to filter themselves out. They don't know how to say, "Hey, you know what? I see this thing. I'm not quite sure of it. I'm sorry. I just don't agree with you." But at the same time,
that's a much harder thing to do. Like, let's pretend you take a very like Richie Rich kind of person, and I come up to him and I'm like, "You're a rich asshole," and he's like, "You don't know me. You don't know the things I've been through. You don't know the strive I've had.
Yeah,
you're stereotyping me." That's true no matter what. But that also goes into the idea of you have to be tolerant of anyone, no matter who they are, what they've been through. Because just because they have had a little bit more of a leg up in life doesn't necessarily mean that they have had it easier than you have.
no, yeah, we should be tolerant, and and when I was saying the whole thing with the serving thing, it's it's just it's just a way that we kind of view the world. Obviously, servers are not all racist. Obviously, like we just see a constant. I
Right.
think that's just what it is. And it's not like we're going out of our way to be like, "Oh, you're blah 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 blah, like you're this way and blah 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 and whatnot." It's more of like, "Oh, they're Australian, so they
Yeah.
don't tip."
This is what I'm in
Because-
for the next hour.
Yeah, it's like they're Australian. They usually don't tip, so I don't know what my outcome is going to
Because
be.
in their country it's included.
Yeah,
They
because
don't
it's
know.
included because they don't know. Or if you have a person that comes in and says, "Hey, you know what? I want hot waters because I want to put all my utensils in there because I feel like everything is dirty." You're like, "Oh, you're going to want to have extra napkins. You're going to want, straws with everything that
Yeah,
you have.
because
You're going to
they probably
want,
come from a country where they don't sterilize the dishes.
or they're just picky."
Or yeah.
Yeah, or they're just picky. So, like, here's the thing: it's like you don't know where they're coming from, and the joke was that we see that stereotype all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not intolerant of it. That just makes us more aware of that tolerance
Yeah.
of understanding. Hey, we see you constantly. We see who you are. We get it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's I feel like servers in general are probably the most tolerant of people generally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And intuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where I think if you haven't had a serving job, I don't see how you could be as intuitive as people who have been in the service industry.
Yes.
It's not like you're stupid for not knowing what people are going to be like, or not anticipating anything, just like meeting a person and being like, "I wonder what I'm going to get," instead of having like a basic like map of what you might be getting.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make somebody stupid. It's just that it's interesting that the serving industry has that opportunity to be able to see all these different people and to have this like almost sixth sense that nobody else has,
Yeah.
that hasn't been in the
I
service
wouldn't say it's
industry.
just the service industry though.
Yeah, there are
I mean,
other industries too.
just how about this? It's
Very
just
broad.
serving
I would say
customer service.
Yes.
industry.
Yeah.
Customer service industry, you'd be able to see a bunch of different things and different aspects of people that didn't even realize.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't realize it.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
people that I see at my job now I never saw working in a restaurant.
Yeah, because
That's
they're
crazy.
yeah, because you have a lot of people that are afraid of other people. You have agoraphobia. You have a lot of people that can't deal with a big society, like situations where there's a lot of people in there. And so that's another thing that I started to realize. It's like I don't get to see those people, so I don't get to know what those people are.
But when you work in a restaurant, you can have a difficult person, they're gone in
Yes.
an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, and
The
how
one-
good you feel when they're finally gone.
Exactly.
Feels so good.
Imagine having the worst customer you've ever experienced in a restaurant, knowing you're going to have to serve that person for the next year.
Yeah, I know. Oh, girl. I had an office job for a while. Oh, my God. I couldn't do it anymore. Because you
It's
deal
tough.
with the same shitty people all the time. And you can't, like, you go crazy.
The one thing I will say, though, and that is something that Ivan kind of convinced me of when we talked about this, because I'm recording on my phone of a woman who went so off the deep end when we were at work that my coworker literally had to record it.
For, like, legal purposes, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
she was afraid
Yeah.
that if she didn't record it, this particular person was going to go to her attorney and try and sue and get us fired.
Right.
So she was recording the conversation to make sure that we were protected because this person was so crazy, she had no idea what she was going to
Yeah,
do.
and you don't see that kind of stuff in restaurants very often, actually.
No.
You don't see people just, like, blowing
But
the
see,
fuck
this is
up.
the difference. Like in a restaurant, if someone doesn't like their dish, or if someone's like, hey, I've got a party at 25, fuck you guys, I'm not paying. At max, you're costing the company, let's say, $500.
Yeah.
If you have like a resident in an apartment community who says, hey, I'm being harassed, you can tell Donald Bren, who owns the Irvine Company, I'm not paying my rent. That's $3,000 that you're costing your community,
Yeah.
which is so dumb. It's so dumb that people think that just because they're harassed by their neighbors means that their company has to compensate them for whatever reason.
Right, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
people feel entitled to whatever they're paying for. You know, it's like if I'm paying,
That's a very good way to describe it.
if I'm paying for this much, this is what I expect.
If I pay
this
X,
is-
I expect X plus.
I mean, it goes back to the whole numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like it's not about emotion. It's not about thing. It's about a numbers game. If I can fill this hole, however I'm going to fill it, this is the way that I'm going to do it with numbers. It's the unfortunate part about consumerism.
Brownie me.
Yep. All right.
Brownie.
Yeah, I need some brownies. All right. So
That's
you guys
deep.
have. Do you want to round up with one more final thought before we conclude?
I
this
think that's
podcast.
probably,
Yeah,
probably smart.
we're pretty much
Yeah.
out of brownies,
I think
so
I think we're out of brownies. We're getting low on Jameson. We're out of kombucha. So I would just like to wrap it up by saying that I really appreciate you, Devin, for having
Hey.
us over
Mhm.
Pleasure.
to just kind of ramble and talk about random things because we're all at a different point in our lives, but at the same time, we all
Sure.
really enjoy, at least I really enjoy the opportunity to speak about human conditions and about where we're at a more layman's perspective. People
Yeah.
always talk all the time about, oh, what's happening in the White House, what's happening with the big name people, but
Yeah.
there's very few things where you can just sit down and listen to what's happening with people on an
Yeah.
everyday basis.
And servers,
And I really
servers
appreciate
out
that.
there, we feel you. We love you. Keep
Always
going.
tip 20%.
Always
Oh my
tip
god,
Oh,
you
yeah.
every
20%.
service
Oh, yes,
fucking night.
Help us out, people.
And if this whole thing was just about serving, that's fine. It incorporates every aspect of life. It really does.
I want to shout out to like the perfect couple customers that I had yesterday. Like perfect example of like a great customer. Couple from Nashville, super nice. Their names are Sienna and Tanner. They're gonna come see me tomorrow night. And we just had like great conversation and they tipped me like $30 off of $100 tab.
Wow.
And they're younger
Nice.
than me. That's insane to me. So
Good job.
like shout out to cool customers like that. You make your servers nights when
Yeah.
when you just engage in some friendly talk and leave them an awesome tip for their hard work that they deserve a good tip
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
That's
People
great.
people
Even if they
forget
seem
people
like they're
forget
not
that we're
there.
just people.
Yeah.
You know, we have our ups, we have our downs, we have our days where we don't want to be at work, and we have our days where we want to say, hey, you know what? We just want to make somebody happy. So tip your server, say hello, be friendly, and everything else is just human condition.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you all for being very honest tonight and being open in conversation and not being judgy.
Thank you for stereotyping me in the most honest possible way.
We all stereotype each other.
Now I feel bad because I told David Powell we were going to have a conversation on dildos and we didn't. So next time when David Powell is going to be on, hopefully I'll be here and we'll have our conversations on dildos.
I think we'll find a moment for Dave to come on.
Okay.
All right.
Well, you let us know.
Well,
cheers.
Cheers to our luscious host.
Cheers.
Thank you to
Pacifica
Divine for making this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. All right, and that is adieu and goodbye on the Darkhearte podcast, and that is episode 3 for us. Thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone tuning in. You can find us again through my podcast at Pacifica Divine, again at YouTube, and again, of course, on, Instagram, Pacifica Divine. Thank you very much.